D. Mace, Finnegan, and Donick 1025, The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Finnegan, and David Janes here with you. We hope you are having a wonderful start to your Tuesday. We hope you had a wonderful Labor Day weekend as well. And gentlemen, we did it. It's football time. We had an excellent slate of college football games over the weekend. And if you think that this show will end before I have a chance to gloat about what happened last night in Chapel Hill, you are sorely mistaken. And we will do that at some point. But we were treated to an excellent slate, I should say, of college football games over the weekend. It's week 1 of the NFL season. We have a real, actual, meaningful NFL game 2 nights from now. The Tennessee Titans open their season in 5 days. And I thought, David Janes, if you could cue this up for me, I thought this would be the best way to just put ourselves in the right frame of mind for football season. And as all of you know, I love chaos. And the University of Alabama treated us to that chaos when they got smacked by Florida State over the weekend. So
I called it, by the way.
You
did. Want to make sure it's clear.
I did the exact opposite. I picked Alabama to cover. That absolutely did not happen. But I love chaos. So where do you go when Alabama fans want event? You turn on the Paul Feinbaum Show. And I want you all to listen to this caller whose name is Legend. That's how he went on the program. Legend from Alabama. Here is Legend discussing Kalen DeBoer on the Paul Feinbaum Show.
We don't need marriage counseling. It's a full-fledged divorce now, dude. It's only a matter when we run your ass off now. It's got nothing to do with marriage counseling no more, brother. This is a full-fledged divorce. I'm not saying that I hate your ass, but if you was on life support, I'd pull the plug and charge my phone. You're about as popular as a bonus track on a Yoko Ono album right now, dude. Nobody likes you. You are an outsider. We don't like you. Go your ass back to the West Coast.
That was just part of it. It kept going.
Did you say full-pledged at one point?
That is correct.
At one point,
wow.
At one point, we didn't play
next
this part.
level right there.
We didn't play this part.
Wow.
But at one point, he said that Kalen DeBoer could not motivate a chicken to cross the road if there were a hen on the other side wearing Daisy Dukes that looked like Megan Fox. I wish I was making that up. But that put me in the right frame of mind for football season because we are excited. We are crazy about football. So I heard that earlier today. I just had to share that with all of you.
I mean, so listen, this is why football will never, ever, ever. And I mean, football may just outlast humans. I don't know how, maybe from an AI standpoint, robotic standpoint, but football will always draw out the best or the worst in a person. And we just heard some of the worst. I mean, I wonder did that person, after going through his diatribe, what did he do after he hung up the phone? What do y'all think he did after he hung up the phone? He couldn't have just went and started watching television. He couldn't have.
There had to be some decompress.
Exactly.
Somewhere.
I don't know what he did after that, but it wasn't good.
I mean, the guy said that if Kalen DeBoer were on life support, he would unplug him
and
to
plug
charge
up his
his phone.
His iPhone. And it got 99% on it.
It might be an Android.
But it's on 99%. So why would he need to unplug the life support to hook up his? But that's some hate right there.
Well, Alabama, the Crimson Tide have been struggling lately, and we will get into college football. Most of the second hour of the program will be about college football. Clark Lee will join us coming off of Vanderbilt's 45-3 win against Charleston Southern on Saturday. The Commodores are preparing for a trip to Blacksburg to take on Virginia Tech this weekend. So we will catch up with Clark Lee. Trevor Maddich will join us in that hour as well. We'll get into all of the things with college football because it was an eventful weekend in college football. But Willie, before I get into the next topic, you said you had an anecdote that you wanted to share.
Yeah, I just want to know if there's anything we can do about how cars are built on the interior, because this happens to me a lot. When's the last time you guys dropped something down the side of your car between the seat
On my
and
way
the
here.
median? Yeah.
Yeah, on my way here.
Probably yesterday.
And you just can't get
Yeah.
at it. You can't. My hand doesn't get down there. It just so once it's down there,
It's down there.
your phone, it could be your keys.
They do have a device for that. You know that?
I was wondering. That
They
was
do
going
have-
to be my
yeah.
question. Do they have a device to retrieve things without having to get out, move the seat up or back, and maneuver? Because
Well,
that's
they
what I
have-
had to do.
They have one of those. Well, I shouldn't call it a device. It's like a whatever that you put in between the seat and that space.
It's like a magnetized or something.
No, it's like a cover, and it fits in between there, and whatever falls in there falls into the gap, like the groove that they created. So it falls in there, and then you could just pull the thing out and get whatever you need to get, and you're good.
I'm convinced that people that make cars just make it as difficult as possible. Like, ooh, the way we're going to make this car is going to be so hard to get your phone or your keys out of there when you drop something down there. So I dropped something today. I just dropped the lid off of my green Gatorade.
Yellow.
Yellow, big time.
Green Gatorade.
How long did it take you to get it?
I couldn't get it. I had to get out of my car. I had to move the car. And what was funny is I moved the seat as far up as I could possibly get it, just so I could get at this orange lid. And I found like 3 packs of gum, 4 quarters.
The things you find when you move your
like
seat.
a list of things. Like there's no telling what's down there. This
Oh,
is
man.
gone. So that's I think that's my Seinfeld Larry David moment of the day. Like,
But they do have a
that's
little
gotta be-
kit. They have a kit for that.
Tommy on our text line
They have a
says,
kit for that.
TikTok shop or Amazon, you can buy
Yeah.
these trays that fit between
Really?
the seat
Trays,
and the
yeah,
dash
yeah.
to fill the gap.
Mhm. Yeah, you should look in that.
fill in the
Willie.
gap. All right, it can be done.
Absolutely. Just when you thought it couldn't be done, it
The
can.
silver lining is I got like 3 packs of gum. Like, hey,
And $1.
now-
you're a dollar richer.
Yeah, that's right. I'm rich. I made money.
So as we said, the Tennessee Titans, 5 days from now, week 1 at Denver against the Broncos. We will be digging into this matchup all week long because let's be honest. Last season, we didn't get to do a lot of digging into the matchups because the Titans were so bad. There wasn't much digging to do. So when everybody's 0-0, we can do some digging. So we will be looking into the matchup with the Denver Broncos more in depth over the course of the week. But here's how I want to start today's show. And here's what I need all of you to do, as well as Willie and Derek, at 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 5 days out from the Titan season opener, how are you feeling? In general, about the matchup against the Broncos, how are you feeling about the Titans 5 days out from the season opener against the Denver Broncos? 615-737-1025. Because it's going to be a tough matchup. We know that. Denver's defense was arguably the best defense in the NFL last season. Number 3 in scoring defense, set a franchise record for sacks, led the NFL with 63. Double what the Tennessee Titans had. The Tennessee Titans had 32 sacks last season. The Broncos had 63. You look at all of the fancy stats, EPA, all of that stuff, they were right at the top. So it's going to be tough for Cam Ward and the Titans against the Denver Broncos. So, Derek, generally, how are you feeling about the matchup 5 days out?
Much different than I did at the beginning of training camp. I'm talking training camp, period. When the schedule came out, and even when the schedule didn't come out, even when the schedule wasn't out, let's say that, whoever their first, whoever was the season opener, because of where the team was, you were nervous about it because you didn't know whether they were going to draft a quarterback, which quarterback, yada, yada, yada. So as we got into mini camp, and it's not so much about the other team. I think it's about the Titans. I think they've answered, to this point, they've answered one of the most critical questions or pivotal questions outside of the quarterback, the offensive line. The offensive line was putrid at best the last 2 seasons. And that was always something that was a scare for me. But as I started to see these guys play, start getting more and more confident that Cushenberry would be back. Even Levin being a backup, I felt confident with him. And then watching them in the game. But first, before that, the practices that they had with Tampa and Atlanta, you heard a lot of stuff on both sides. One thing you didn't hear about was the offensive line, and that's a good thing. The offensive line, you didn't hear anything about them. They had to be asked about, and when they were, it was glowing. It was, we are improving as an offensive line. I like what the guys are doing. So it started there. Then you watch them in the game and how they're playing without Zeitler or Cushenberry. Not to say that they are going to be the greatest offensive line in the National Football League. I'm not saying that they're the Philadelphia Eagles or the Detroit Lions or even Baltimore. But what I am saying is what I'm seeing, it's much better than what I saw last year. Even throughout the season, what I see now is a total 180 from what I even saw during the season. And that gives me more optimism. Now, granted, Cam has to play well and he has to develop as a quarterback. But I think going into this first game, knowing who they play and the type of defense they have, you got to have a professional offensive line, because that's what we're calling it right now. It looks like they got a professional offensive line. So with that being said, I'm not saying the Titans are going to win this game. I would be foolish to say that, but I feel better about them going into this game. Before, it was like, man, whoever they play, it's going to be a long haul. It really is. But I don't think it's going to be, I wouldn't be surprised if the Titans went over to Denver and won. I don't think it's going to be what people expect it to be. And one reason I think it's going to be because of the offensive line.
Adam, what's the latest line?
I think it's 8 points, ain't it?
It moved to 7.5 on Friday when I looked. So let's double check right now. The line is, where is the game? The line.
We're here, man.
I know. The line is 7.5. Denver minus 7.5. They are not the biggest underdog of the week anymore. That dubious distinction belongs to the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday night. The Eagles are 8.5-point favorites on Thursday.
I'm taking Dallas in those. I would take Dallas if I was anybody.
One of the things about the season that the Broncos had last year, which was an okay year, they had a nice year, 10-7, after the previous 4 years not being very good at all. So they were excited to be 10-7. So the question is, are they turning the corner as a franchise to being a team that now can start to put themselves in the same conversation as the Chiefs and the Bengals and the Bills and the teams that have been in the mix in the AFC? I'm not sure. One of the things that they did very well last year is they beat up on the bad teams. They had a pretty easy schedule. Here are the wins that they had last year. At Tampa, pretty good win. But Tampa is not a powerhouse. At the Jets, Vegas, at New Orleans, Carolina, Atlanta, at Vegas, Cleveland, Indianapolis. Remember that game? The wacky game where the Colts handed them the game with the weird throwback play that got intercepted. Do you guys remember that play? At Mile High? That was a very strange game in which the Colts completely melted down. And then they beat Kansas City in the last game of the season when Kansas City was playing, guess who, at quarterback? Not Patrick Mahomes, Carson Wentz. So the 10th win was a gimme. So you heard me reel off those wins. Their best win, arguably, of the season was at Tampa in week 3. Fair?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other thing that FTN talks about with the Broncos is they had a great defense, yes. But that was, you just heard me reel off, the schedule was pretty easy. They didn't do well against the good teams. And there is a trend in the NFL that when you have a mediocre offense and a great defense, you're much more likely to regress on defense than you are to take the next step on offense. That's just a historic study that was done. So all that being said, I just think 7.5 is a pretty high number. There's such an X factor the first weekend of the season. Like when The Patriots won last year. Who did the Patriots beat last year?
The Bengals.
There's a lot of wackiness that happens. Now they could go down out there and have a nightmare. There's no question about it. But I think if they have made the improvements that they think they've made on the offensive line, I think they can hang around in the game. Simply because I'm not quite sold on the Broncos here. It's the first week. I think I'm leaning towards taking the points right now. I'm not calling for a win, but I think they can be competitive.
Let's go to Trey on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Trey, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey guys.
Hey,
Hey,
Trey.
what's going on, Trey?
Hey, I'm praying, hoping, and wishing that the Titans will go up there and show what they can do. But as far as what I've seen and what I've heard and what y'all talked about, they're not that good.
That's
Okay.
fair, Trey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I've been watching Bo Nix play for 3 or 4 years during COVID. Bo Nix is a gunslinger. Bo Nix can throw the ball down the field. How are we going to compete with the points that they might put on the board? Having only Kevin Ridley. And y'all have a good day. Thank you for taking my call.
Always a pleasure, Trey.
I think the Bo Nix thing as a gunslinger is a little bit of a misnomer. At least it was last year. What was his best trait? Doesn't get sacked, right? He did well, but it's a lot of quick release throws. I don't know that he's a guy that is going to drive them to win on his own. He's a guy that's more of a manager. So that's the question with him: is will he take another step forward?
Well, we'll see. I think it's more so, about the Titans and the step they take rather than, Denver. I'm saying that because I don't follow Denver like that. And we don't have to talk about the Broncos in our everyday talking on the radio. So I just look at the Titans as a team that has improved in one of the most critical areas. And they may have improved in 2 of the most critical areas, quarterback and offensive line. And if that remains true, then I think they go to Denver and you get a much better outing than what you thought you were getting. Again, I don't know if they're going to win this game or lose this game. You're asking Vegas, they say they're going to lose this game. But I would rather, if I'm the Titans, I would rather play Denver first game of the season where they have no tape on me whatsoever outside of the preseason than to play them after 5 or 6 games. Now they have a body of work to scout, like true body of work to scout. Right now, they're talking about going back and looking at Cam Ward's film from college. So I would rather play them now than to have to wait 6 weeks or 4 weeks where now they've gotten film on my quarterback and what we want to do with them.
By the way, according to ESPN, it will be the first time since the 1970 NFL-AFL merger that the Broncos will begin a season against a rookie quarterback.
Oh, wow.
So keep that in mind. Here's how I am setting the bar right now. Again, we are going to get more into this matchup over the course of the week. I am setting the bar for the Tennessee Titans at don't embarrass yourself. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not expecting them to win. We'll make our official selections, I'm sure, at the end of the week. Don't embarrass yourself. I'm not expecting a win, but look like a competent team on the field against the Denver Broncos. That's all I'm asking. How about you? 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We will take your reaction. But also, coming up next, we've spent so much time this offseason, which is mercifully over, discussing Brian Callahan and specifically the program that he put in place during the offseason, separating the players into teams and doing the competitions and things like that. Tyler Lockett, who's been around for a minute, had an interesting answer on Bussin' with the Boys about the differences in the coaching between his time with the Seattle Seahawks and now with the Tennessee Titans. We'll get to that next. 737-1025. Tune in for the NFL Game of the Week on ESPN 1025 The Game as the Dallas Cowboys take on the Philadelphia Eagles this Thursday night at 7:20 p.m. The NFL Game of the Week is presented by Circus Sportsbook Kentucky and Macero in 12 South.
Derek Mason here. If you're injured in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible or nothing at all. But at Law Tigers, they make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. They understand how much your bike gear is worth to you, and they will help you get it all repaired or better yet replaced. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when they need. So whether it's to support you at an event or if they see you broken down on the side of the road, with Law Tigers, you'll never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. That's Law Tigers, which is powered by Freeman and Fuson. And you can find them located in Nashville at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Looking ahead, week 1, Titans at Broncos on Sunday afternoon. Our general question, how are you feeling about this matchup 5 days away? How are you feeling about the Titans in general now that the week of the season is finally here? Let us know, 615-737-1025. I do want to give a shout out, guys, to Mark in Ashland City. He feels amazing. Cam Ward is the Titans quarterback. His college team, Florida, finally wrecked a garbage opponent for the first time in years. And my alma mater, the Austin P Governors, went on the road and crushed MTSU. Sorry to Derek Mason, the other one. But let's go P. Mark in Ashland City. By the way, we probably won't spend a lot of time on MTSU, but woof.
Ooh.
MTSU loses 34-14 to Austin P over the weekend. Austin P's first win versus an FBS program since 1987.
And that's just part of it. It wasn't even that close. Like it was. David's ignoring us right now, I think, for good reason.
I want to ignore you.
Well, listen. We don't need to talk about what happened. It was,
But what was the score? It wasn't a 21-0 quick.
Listen. I don't recall.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what happened.
It wasn't like they pulled away late. It was a blowout from the start.
If David didn't have to listen to the show closely to help us stay on the air, he would be going la 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 la. But we need him to listen because we need him to keep us on the air. But yes, Austin. I mean MTSU. Woof. Austin P. Good for you, Austin P. MTSU. Ugh.
Man, that's not good.
Now
and
Austin P gets rewarded.
And next week MTSU plays Wisconsin, so I wonder how that will go.
And who does Austin P play?
I have no clue.
Georgia.
Georgia.
That's not good. That's not good. Neither one of those guys.
Ugh. Well,
Wisconsin's not that good this year, but man.
Austin P's going to go into that game confident, though, after playing that way.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah, that is true. So we've spent a lot of time in the offseason talking about Brian Callahan, of course, and what he can do in year 2 to prove that he has what it takes to be a successful coach in the NFL. And he instituted this competition. He broke his players into teams. By the way, I believe Team Cushenberry won the competition. I don't know which players were on Team Cushenberry other than Lloyd Cushenberry. But congratulations, I suppose, to Team Cushenberry for winning this competition. Who knows what they win? Pride, I guess. But we spent a lot of time talking about this Brian Callahan off-season program, and we received a lot of comments about how it was Bush League and Pop Warner-esque and all of that stuff. And I was listening to the Bussin' with the Boys podcast, and by the way, congratulations to Taylor Lewan and Will Compton. They're all over ESPN now, Bussin' with the Boys doing incredibly well. And Bussin' with the Boys, they did an interview with Cam Ward. But in that same episode, they also did an interview with Tyler Lockett. And you guys tell me if you agree with this. I've never met Tyler Lockett. I've watched Tyler Lockett play football. But Tyler Lockett seems to me to be the type of player who, if you want the God's honest truth about what's going on in the locker room, as much as he's willing to tell, he is the player you go to. I was a beat reporter for a long time. There were players in the Predators dressing room where if I didn't want BS, those were the players I was going to speak to for my stories. And Tyler Lockett, I just get the vibe from him that he's going to be that type of player for the Titans. He's been in the league a long time. He's been successful. He's been a part of a successful organization. So Taylor Lewan, I believe it was Taylor, asked Tyler Lockett about the differences in coaching in Seattle versus Tennessee. He had 2 coaches in Seattle, Pete Carroll, of course, and Mike McDonald. And of course, now he has Brian Callahan. So here was Tyler Lockett detailing the differences in coaching between Seattle and Tennessee.
What is the biggest difference culturally that you've seen between like the Titans and Seattle?
I mean, I think it just depends on the head coach because everybody's different, right? Like with Pete, it was come as you are. Like, I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do as long as it doesn't become a detriment to the team. There was a lot of like, you had to be self-aware and you had to be self-motivated because we did things that was like in a competitive level, like shooting hoops and doing all these things, and people could have so much fun, but if you weren't doing the work, you weren't going to be on the team. And so he found ways to have fun but also to compete, and the people who couldn't do both of those were the ones that wouldn't make it because they just fell in love with the fun and they didn't fall in love with the competing aspect. And then, you know, when Mike came, Mike's more of like a military style coach. So kind of similar to when I was with Coach Snyder in college. And so like a lot of his stuff and how he goes about it is a lot different. And it's a lot more like time consuming and a lot more work oriented. And then coming out here with Cali, it's like, I think it's kind of the best of both worlds because he's come from a lot of different places where, you know, he's been within the Peyton Manning systems. He's been within Cincy. And so kind of like understanding the new age of how to be able to tailor things to get the most out of your players. That's kind of like what Cali's starting to do here.
I really like that response from Tyler Lockett, and I want Derek's opinion on it. But I will tell you what I thought when I heard that response for the first time. There was the part where he was talking about Pete Carroll and sort of the competitions, shooting hoops. And I thought to myself, can you imagine what the reaction would be from a lot of people if they found out that Brian Callahan was having the Titans players shooting hoops? Pete Carroll does it, but hey, it must be great because Pete Carroll has been a winner. But I want your opinion on that because I thought that was an incredibly insightful response.
I mean, he's giving, you know, his perception. It's always good to have a veteran guy like that. I've been there where you've been in the league long enough and you've seen enough and you've been around enough coaches that you can answer questions and protect the locker room, but still give honest answers. That only comes with experience, wisdom, you know, knowing your team, seeing your team, and knowing, you know, how locker rooms look individually. But people are going to gravitate to you after the game because they know you're going to give an honest opinion. But the organization loves it because they know you will always protect them, even while giving, you know, an honest assessment of what went on out there. It's almost like another coach in a sense in the locker room. But when you start talking about the differences between coaches, listen, I played for a Mike McDonald type of coach and Nick Saban. Was none fun about, you know, Nick. I mean,
And Mike McDonald came from Baltimore,
yeah,
where he coached under
Harbaugh, yeah,
Harbaugh,
yes,
which is you try saying that like you have a mouthful of marbles. John Harbaugh, and you've talked a lot about how he was as a coach was more of the disciplinarian.
yeah.
Right?
He came in there because John had to basically he had to come in and let everybody know things have changed. Not in a way that I'm the new sheriff in town, but things have changed because we hadn't been winning. So I'm in here because they want things to change. So I'm going to push y'all to those limits that the owner probably thought y'all wasn't being pushed. So this first, second, that's how I'm going to push y'all. And we all adapted to it. And, you know, in that you found, you know, the soft side of John Harbaugh. But he was, I would say he was more in the line of what, you know, Lockett sort of describes McDonald as, because he learned, you know, from the Harbaughs. He was with his brother Jim in Michigan. So his lineage is the Harbaughs. So that's all he know. That's how he's going to go into coaching. Why? Because that's successful for them. Bill, not Parcells, but Carroll is different. But he's only different. He's able to be different because Pete Carroll knows how to coach. He wins football game. And he found a way at going out and pushing guys to the limit, but also making it sort of competitive. And then competition is fun. Competition is fun. It truly is. And he's found a way to merge both hard work and competition, which equals to him fun and winning games. So in Seattle, you can do that. You had a lot of veteran guys. That's why Lockett can say, come as you are. Because he had a lot of veteran guys in the locker room that would police the locker room. The head coach didn't have to do that. The head coach can be the other guy. But you got enough veterans and enough enough leaders in that locker room that the coach don't have to, hey, come as you are. But I know my locker room will police all y'all, and y'all will not do anything that's going to be detrimental to the team. So he's had an opportunity to experience, well, 3, he said, well, 2. But he equated Snyder and McDonald as sort of the same coach. Now he comes here and he understands. He can explain to guys, man, this is what I was a part of. This is what I was a part of. But look, Cali's like a mixture of both. And the things that he's doing, it's for a reason, because you know who else did it? Pete Carroll did it. You know who else did it? I know John Harbaugh did it. You know, Vrabel did it. You know, but Vrabel didn't publicize it. All coaches do things within their locker room to try to create a competition. Why? Because competition breeds competition, which brings success most of the time. And that's what you're trying to do, just create a competitive sort of field. The minute you walk into that building, we are competing for everything. When you do that, you know how to compete out there on the field.
I do also hold Tyler Lockett in high regard. And I do believe in what Brian Callahan did. But also, I will tell you that all of this right now sounds great. It's just how they hold together when they go through the struggles that I think we all believe they're going to go through in some form. Everything is going to go great if they're sort of an unexpected team that wins more games than they're supposed to win. That's why I think it would be so important for this group if they could pull off an upset or 2 early and just give themselves a little bit of confidence and belief to go with all these things that they're doing. Because I don't really care what you've done to lay the groundwork. It gets really tested if you're terrible. And this roster may be bad enough to where that's going to be tested big time. So I'm not sure how to answer the question, right? Because everybody is going to be poo-pooing it if they stink, right? They're going to all that stuff. Blah, 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 you know, nobody's good. Everybody can talk a good game now because you haven't gone through any struggles yet. Everybody right now, I'm sure, in every locker room is thinking, yeah, all this stuff we did in the off season, it's going to pay off. We're going to do great, you know, because everybody's 0-0 and nobody's lost yet.
But it's not just wins and losses. It's if you see this team developing, because we know the roster, roster isn't that good, and they understand it. But if I'm watching this team and I see this team is developing and they don't look like they did last year, I get it. They may not be winning games, but that's what I'm looking at.
I am 100% in agreement with that.
615-737-1025. We will take your reaction to what Tyler Lockett said about Brian Callahan on Bussin' with the Boys. We will get to your reaction on the Titans matchup on Sunday against the Denver Broncos. 615-737-1025 later today on ESPN 94.9 The Fan. The Nashville Sounds take on Norfolk with the first pitch at 5:35. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Sounds Baseball on ESPN 94.9 The Fan is presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. D. Mace Vingan and Donick 1025. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Talking Titans. We'll talk some Vanderbilt Commodores in roughly 15 minutes with Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lee. He will join us at 4 o'clock. Trevor Maddich will join us at 4:40. We will get into the weekend that was in college football in the 4
was it a
o'clock
weekend?
hour. And boy,
saw
was it a
this-
weekend.
I saw this floated around. Tell me if you guys agree. Best opening weekend in college football history
Whew, man, I have to think about that.
in terms of the drama, the matchups.
We had 3 matchups between top 10 teams, correct? LSU and Clemson,
Mhm.
Texas and Ohio State, Miami and Notre Dame.
Mhm.
I didn't realize they're both in the top 10, Miami and Notre Dame.
they were, at least.
Okay.
Well,
I
Notre
think-
Dame's still in the top 10.
I think that's the first time that's ever happened to open a college football season.
And there were
remember
other
correctly.
intriguing games to chew on, for sure.
Yes.
One in particular for you last night.
Oh, we capped it off wonderfully. Oh, it was so good.
So you're not disagreeing off the top.
No,
Sometimes we get the recency bias,
Yeah.
right? Where we're, but I
don't
was-
know. I
I
don't
was
know
going
about that.
back in my mind saying, can I think of a weekend where there were more good games on opening weekend? I'm sure there's a couple in there,
Ooh,
but that was
let me
really
check
good. That was good.
so we're talking Brian Callahan, and one thing that I'm hoping to see from Brian Callahan, and Teron Davenport mentioned this in a preview he did on ESPN.com. Teron wrote that Callahan has to show that he can effectively call plays and outfox opposing coaches. That will be difficult with a roster that doesn't have a lot of premier players. So keep that in mind. But here's what I like about the opening of the season. Looking at that first sentence from Teron Davenport, Callahan has to show that he can effectively call plays and outfox opposing coaches. Here are 4 of the first 7 coaches Brian Callahan will face this regular season. Week 1, Sean Payton. Week 2, Sean McVay. Week 6, Pete Carroll. And of course, Mike Vrabel. Week 7. So those are some excellent coaches that Brian Callahan is going head to head with. So I think this is a good opportunity, Willie, right off the start of the season to see how Callahan can do in that particular area.
Yeah, that was an interesting angle that you took with that. I would never have thought about that. You know, you're going up against shrewd, proven coaches in a lot of cases here, because I don't think he can afford to get caught up with that. I think it's all about making sure. The one quote that jumped out at me from his over the weekend press conference was, "I just want to see what I have seen behind the scenes translate to on the field." And last year, I was definitely not as optimistic as D-Mace, who said
11 wins. didn't
11
I?
wins.
Yes.
Did you really?
I
Yes,
think
he
I
did.
Yes.
Yes, he did.
Ugh.
Mhm.
I went 8
It
and
didn't
9.
age well.
I went 8 and 9, and I thought I was being optimistic to do that.
I don't remember what I said.
I thought I'll have to look back in the scrolls to see what I got, because I did find the scrolls. But I'm not as optimistic for 8 and 9 this year. But I think we would all agree at halftime of the Bears game in week 1, we're like, hey, this looks like a football team, which is a little bit what I thought we might see, right? I thought we would see Will Levis have his moments. I was hoping that they would be able to, with the money they spent, they didn't go the other way and completely break it down, that they would be able to hang and have their moments and protect Will Levis. But, of course, Will Levis completely unraveled from there. And, of course, it all started with what? They had a 17-0 lead. It started with a block punt touchdown.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, everything snowballed the other way. I'm sure Brian Callahan still has nightmares about that game, because if they had won that game, I think you could argue they might get on a little bit of confidence, and they might beat the Jets the next weekend. The Jets weren't any good, as we know, and they got off to a really good start in that game before they handed it over to the Jets. So I do think the start, while it's not the end-all, be-all, for a team that's trying to build a foundation, I think the start of the season is more important for those teams than a veteran team that might be, experimenting with some things like a Kansas City, like, okay, let's see what we've done in the offseason. Let's sort of, if we lose a game early, we can make up for it. I think this is a more critical time for Brian Callahan. I'm sure he has nightmares about how it went south so early last year.
Well, I think a lot of it had to do, thinking about your quote that Brian said. A lot of it, alluding to, hey, listen, I want to make sure what I'm seeing behind the scenes matches what happens in the game. That comes, I think, a lot, somewhat from Will Levis, seeing the things that Will Levis was doing behind the scenes,
Right.
putting in the work, being able to, watch the film, we go from the film to the practice field, and it all looking like, okay, we look like a good NFL team.
Because don't you think he
Yeah.
was surprised at how bad
Exactly, he
Levis
was.
was? Because he kept
was.
falling back on that line throughout the
Yeah.
year. He goes, Will Levis appears to get it
Mhm.
in practice.
Exactly.
He understands the concepts. We go through it, and then he gets out on the field, and he
And it's
cannot
something different.
translate
Yes.
it. Yeah.
And so I think that's why he's sort of holding back to make sure that these things that we may not be seeing, that he's seeing, matches what actually happens on the field. He doesn't want to be fooled again like he was last year, thinking, okay, we got it, and then get in the game and then realize, oh, hell, we don't. So everything is sort of tempered just a little bit when it comes to this offense. But listen, yes, he's playing against coaches that have more experience than him. But I think what would help him is, it's not you versus him. It's you and you versus your team. And what I mean by that is, how do I get them to get on the same page quickly in the game? What plays do I need to call to make sure my quarterback get in the rhythm? Because Will Levis a lot of times never felt like he got into a rhythm. And it wasn't Brian's, doing. It's just Will didn't get into it, maybe because the offensive line.
But is it not a feather in the cap of Brian Callahan?
No. Coaches, it's because they know how fast it can turn.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Brian Callahan
Uh-huh.
is going. If let's just say the Titans win their home opener in week 2 against the Los Angeles Rams. I don't think Brian Callahan is going to go in his office, kick his feet up, light a cigar, and say, man, oh man, I outcoached Sean McVay today. I don't think he's going to do that. But I'm just wondering, let me rephrase this. Maybe in the minds of skeptical Titans fans,
Yes,
it might be a feather in the cap.
Oh, of course. For the fan base, yes, that's the feather in the cap to say, my coach beat Sean McVay. My coach beat
Pete Carroll,
Mike Vrabel, or I forget,
Sean Payton,
or the coach in Houston, I forget his name,
DeMeco
Ryans. That's a feather in the cap for the fan base. But coaches understand how quickly this thing turns. And just because I may beat you one week that doesn't mean I'm necessarily a better team than you. Things may have happened within the game that allowed us to win. But does that mean, because you can go up against, we can put the Titans against just about that first half of the schedule. And if we just said roster to roster, who's better? Maybe one roster the Titans are better than. Honestly, there's nobody. I'm looking, maybe Arizona. They are, like, from top to bottom, they're better than. But Denver, Los Angeles, Indianapolis, Houston, no. So when you look at it from that standpoint, we may not be the better, but what did we do? We did exactly what we needed to do to win those football games. And it's more about my players than about me and a feather in my cap. That's the way I believe coaches look at it. Now, the fan base, yeah, they should look at it from the standpoint, yeah, we beat your Hall of Famers or your Super Bowl winning coach. Yeah, we beat them, and y'all supposed to be a great team this year. Fans are supposed to do that all day, every day. But coaches, unless you win a few championships against that individual, yeah, you beat them you beat them during the regular season. Have you beat them in the playoffs? Well, the Titans can't say that because they hadn't been in the playoffs in the last 3 years.
That is true. Let's go to Gorilla on our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com. Gorilla, what's up, man? Go ahead.
DBD, what's going on, guys?
How you doing?
How you doing today, man?
Good.
What's going on? What you got?
Hey, man, just doing that thing I do, fellas. Check this out. I'm of the mindset that we're not that bad of a roster I don't believe we're that bad of a roster. If you guys go back and just check the Titans last year, man, it's easy to see where the wheels fell off of the team, starting at the quarterback position and then special teams. I mean, I don't think we're that bad of a roster. I think we're just everybody is playing this 3-0, this 3-14 lick and whatnot, which you are what your schedule says you are. But I believe we've upgraded all the way around the board, even at our edge rusher. I think we're not getting any credit, and you guys aren't giving us any credit. I know we got to put it out on the field, but man, come on now.
I think you can only
Thank you,
say
Gorilla.
it's a
Thank you,
theory
Gorilla.
right now, because I think what he just said, Trevor Maddich absolutely echoed last
Yes.
week. He believes that that's true, but right now you're not getting a lot of benefit of the doubt. I also would have to say that he mentioned special teams. I don't know how anybody could have predicted how bad
Yeah.
the special teams were last year. It was catastrophic. It wasn't just bad special teams. It was hand you the game special teams. That's hard to do. Like the object of special teams, number one, is let's not get beat.
Let's not do anything to beat us.
Then
beat ourselves.
there's special teams that makes a difference on the margins. Hey, we got a great field goal kicker. Hey, we got a great punter. Hey, we've got a guy. We can block a punt for a touchdown here. None of that happened. It was the opposite. It was so. I would hope that just by dumb luck that you're not that bad on special teams. And that could be a difference in one game right there.
I know what Gorilla.
Or 2 games.
I know what Gorilla is saying, and he's right. But here's the problem in your right answer. You are so far at the bottom that yes, you've added some pieces that may have made you a better team, but you're still not to a point where you're better than a lot of these teams out here, especially in the AFC, because the AFC is tough.
Right.
But Gorilla, he has a point that they did make some upgrades at certain positions. The offensive line does look like it's better, but when you are at the bottom, I mean, even if you step up one step in the 20-step floor, you're getting better. But how much better are you getting?
Right. The Titans roster looks better on paper, I would say, but I think we can all agree that when you add the rest of the league into the conversation, it's still one of the least talented rosters in the NFL. So I agree with your point, Derek. 615-737-1025. We will switch gears. Vanderbilt, a 45-3 winner in its season opener over the weekend on West End against Charleston Southern. Head football coach Clark Lee will join us coming up next to break it down, as well as look ahead to Week 2 at Virginia Tech. Clark Lee coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Dunnick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. This is Derek Mason. If you injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike gear is worth to you. So that's why they will help you get it all repaired, or better yet, replaced. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's the supporting you at an event, or if they see you broken down on the side of the road, you know what? With Law Tigers, you'll never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. That's Law Tigers, which is powered by Freeman and Fuson. And you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan here with you. Pleased to be joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com by Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lee. The Commodores coming off of a 45-3 win against Charleston Southern over the weekend in their season opener. Clark, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
We are doing well, thank you. So there was a lot to like, of course, about your team's performance on Saturday, but I know you were displeased after the game with the 6 penalties committed by your offense. To what do you attribute that lack of discipline, detail, however you want to describe it, and how are you going about correcting it ahead of the Virginia Tech game this weekend?
Well, I think sometimes us coaches get a little bit hung up on some things that, I think on the whole, reviewing the game film and kind of seeing the big picture, I mean, I'm pleased with how our offense played. I felt like we were efficient, for our operation to score as many points as we did with the time of possession. And I felt like there's a lot to like there. The thing that I guess kind of triggered me was I felt like we lost a little bit of our fundamental technical focus and got some sloppy holding penalties. There were a couple of operational issues. There was a delay of game, then 2 false starts, one of which was not getting the ball snapped on time. So I think some of that, is first game kind of, learning that the holds, a holding penalty is just such a backbreaker for drives, and to have a couple on a 2-minute half drive where we were trying to, win the middle 8. And I thought a great opportunity for us to work that exercise. That was frustrating, but look, on the whole, I felt like the guys showed up, they started fast, they played the right way. And for the majority of the night, we were pretty efficient on that side of the ball.
Martell Height had 2 catches for 17 yards on offense, made 4 tackles on defense, returned 1 punt for 11 yards. How do you feel Height handled his workload Saturday? And what is the process behind figuring out if he can handle more week to week?
Well, I believe he can handle more. I think we left a lot of load, just the way the game tipped. And I think there comes a point in game 1 where you feel like the outcome's in hand, and you're then kind of focused on, preservation through a long season. But we had planned on him doing more. And so he's trained for that. We've put him through the paces in practice where he's, repping on both sides of the ball, and obviously doing the return game too. So he'll be prepared this weekend to handle more on both sides. And, he's handled it really well. We lost him there for, about a week, an important week during training camp. But, he's bounced back towards the finish of training camp, and obviously in game prep last week and this week, he's looked good. So we'll keep pushing him, and we're going to find those limits as we go, because he's a dynamic player. He can help us in all 3 phases. And, our job is to get our best 11 out there. Martell's definitely one of our best.
We'll talk with Vanderbilt's head football coach, Clark Lee. Now, Clark, you guys, I don't know if you purposely tried to do this, but you guys threw the ball down the field a lot more than you usually do. Now, we know that you guys with Pavia love to run the football, and whether it be with him or just establish yourself as with the run. But have you made it a conservative effort, especially in the first game, to try to take some shots down the field so you sort of get that defense off of your running game?
Yeah, we want to be more explosive, and we feel like you score points throwing the ball, you win games running the ball. And so certainly a part of our identity is the ability to grind out possession time, to be great in conversion downs, to establish a run so that we stay ahead of the chains. But there are also times where the ball needs to go up in the air and we need to connect on our shots. And I felt like Saturday we were able to do that at times. There were a couple that we left on the field that, I know Diego probably wanted back, but that's going to happen. I think, we feel like we've strengthened that receiver core. We feel like we've got some weapons out there, and Diego kind of year 2 here is settled in and feels comfortable. So That's for sure part of the formula. It's never going to be without like a physical run game that controls the game for us, but we want to be able to get the ball in the air. We want to be able to connect on shot plays. We want to be able to score points throwing the ball.
Now, Coach, it seems like the connection between Pavia and Eli Stowers has gotten a lot better than even what it was last year. It seems like those two guys don't miss a beat. Does that make the receiving core or the passing game as a whole a lot better? Because when you have a guy like him, it allows those other guys to get in the mix, because defenses are trying to take away your number one option in the tight end.
Yeah, well, first of all, Derek, I thought I was going to get a little more love on my throw to score comment. I'm trying to play to the crowd here. And,
hey, you got to throw. Hey, I know you got to throw the score. Being a former receiver, I would say you got to throw the score and win. But that's just me.
Okay, well, hey, give me another year, maybe I'll get there too. No, you're right. Listen, Eli's a weapon. He's a weapon. He's a matchup issue. There's a lot of comfort there, obviously, between he and Diego, and it does give us a chance to move them around, to create, matchups where we want matchups, and to give other guys a chance to get open. And when you can put, 3 or 4 guys on the field that we feel like are dangerous targets, you're going to force teams to figure out who they want to cover, who they want to double at times. And that's going to, when Eli's double, it's going to be someone else's down to win on. And we've established comfort level again with Diego and that core to where I feel like we could spread the ball around pretty well.
We're talking to Clark Lee, head coach, Vanderbilt Commodores. Got the win against Charleston Southern. It's at Virginia Tech this weekend. And Clark, one of the things that dawned on me as I was watching the game is, for the first time, I think you would agree, since you've been there, you have a lot of established guys coming back in the same role. That continuity had to feel good for you, because everybody's really excited about some of the other pieces, but I almost took for granted you got Cedric Alexander back there. You got a lot of the key receivers. Of course, you got Diego and a lot of the key guys on defense, but that kind of continuity has got to be helpful.
It is. And, I don't know that it's obviously, I think anymore in college football, you're seeing more and more turnovers. So it needs to be an advantage for us. And that means we also can't just assume that it's going to win us games, meaning we have to work to execute a plan, to build chemistry through the plan, to build trust through the plan as we go through a week, so that we can, play well together on Saturday. Certainly I sat in a linebacker meeting this morning, and it's just, those guys have been in there for so long, for so many years. There's such a comfort, and in some ways it's going to give us a chance on Saturday to adjust a little faster, just because there's a language build, there's an understanding there. And yet the work is still the work. We can't deviate from what preparation asks of us or requires of us. And to make it an advantage, we have to be really, really detailed and disciplined in our preparation. But again, that established chemistry should show up for us in critical moments this year. And we need to lean on that in those times to win important games.
Yeah, I asked you about about Trey Richardson last week, and I'm just curious, in your mind, did it look the way you haven't been put to the test with the speed and the talent of the defenses you're going to see, but it did look like Trey Richardson and also Barnett, the youngster, it gave you a little more zip on the outside. I know that was an objective of your guys, to try to put a little more speed in the lineup to stretch the defense.
Certainly, that's a part of that, trying to develop that explosive aspect of our offense. And we feel like there are a number of guys who can do that, but Trey and Caleb certainly are part of that plan. We've seen it through training camp. There are times where they accelerate and they run through us, and plays that you assume the tackle is going to be made. They're outrunning angles and things like that, and we feel like we have enough speed on defense to play at a high level. So it says something about the skill set those guys bring to the table. The other thing about both of those guys is that they catch the ball really well. So I've been super impressed with their ability to get open, their ability to finish on the ball, their ability to put their foot in the ground and puncture once they do catch it. All those things will be an advantage for us as we go forward. But, obviously, I think still the offense, starts at that physical run game. It starts up front for us, how our line plays. They'll dictate the rest of it. And, we hope that we force people to commit enough numbers to the box and to the run game to where we get some of those guys open on the perimeter, and that becomes the way we become explosive.
I feel like the narrative a lot around the team is how much effort was put into trying to upgrade the offensive line and a lot of the new guys that were brought in. But as you know, chemistry is so important. It's not just the talent; it's how the guys work together on the line. How do you think that's coming along? Because I think it's fair to say that you feel pretty good about a general talent upgrade there.
We do. I mean, I believe, we're a physical group. We have a group with size. I feel like we look like an SEC offensive line. The chemistry part of it and building kind of that connection in the meeting room, I think it is coming along. I felt like at the start of training camp, those guys were learning how to practice the way we practice. They were learning how to meet Coach K and Coach Nady's standards for the front. I've been impressed with how they've kind of gelled. I think the unit is really close, and generally, when you're close off the field, that connection on the field strengthens too. So that's going to be a really important key to our success, because we don't, it's not like you're going out just doing board drills. It's not just about the physical toughness or winning one-on-ones. I mean, those guys have to work together. This weekend against Virginia Tech, we're playing against a really twitchy and explosive front that those guys can move. They can beat you in one step. We're going to have to work together, understand where the help is, how to pass off pressures and twists. I've got the utmost confidence in the way those guys are being taught. I think it's all about how they take that teaching and apply it in execution. And I believe that aspect is strengthened as we've gone through training camp now into the season.
You're going on the road here, but how satisfying was it for you to look up with most of what has been building for a couple of years with the construction? You don't have the cranes and, the guys kicking the extra point into the construction site, and it's really taking shape, and the crowd was outstanding. That had to be pretty satisfying.
It was amazing, honestly. And that's for as much as my head's down right now and it's day to day, it wasn't lost on me that, we've come a long way on the field. We've come a long way in our facility. It's hard to think back 2 years ago when we were dressing in the pitching lab and like you said, it was like the Dust Bowl every Saturday. But
did Corbs have any trouble was anything upset in the pitching lab, or did somebody try to clock their fastball when you guys were in there? Was there any crossover?
Listen, if there was one thing I was going to make sure of is that we left it better than we found it, because I did not. You don't want to piss Corbs off around here,
That's right.
No, he's a great partner. I enjoy having him on our sideline. Obviously, he comes out to practice at times too, and I've got to get him on a trip with us this fall also. But yeah, I mean, look, the cool thing about Saturday was obviously there's an energy building in our community, and I think it was something I was so desperate for when I first got here, and it's just taken time. And I get it too, that this is a fan base that has gone through a lot, and there's been a lot of disappointment, and this has been a slugfest getting this thing up and running and trying to get the flywheel started. And we finally feel like there's something to be excited about here. And we have some expectations building around the program. And my job is to keep putting a team out there that inspires people to show up. But, to have an opening game against an FCS opponent where we fill the stadium up with black and gold, I think that's a really special moment and something I've clocked in my mind. And it makes me hungry for more. So we're going to keep building so that this becomes a feature in the Nashville nightlife. And, Saturday start with a 6:00 kick at, First Bank Stadium. That's kind of the mentality we want the community to have. What we'll focus on is just trying to build a better product on the field.
Now, Coach, this question was prompted to me by Willie. We were talking about the Titans before you got on. And is there something that you saw on film that you really didn't know quite what to make of it, but then once you got in the game, it was like, okay, it's exactly what I thought it was? And it could be as simple as Willie talked about it, the speed that's in your wide receiver room, where you see it in the practice, but it's against yourself, and you're wondering, okay, is this speed really what I'm seeing? And then you get out in the game, and lo and behold, you see your fast guys running really fast. So it could be something as simple as that.
For sure. I think you always are learning something. And one of the things with college where you're not having preseason games, you really, I mean, look, I'm going to be honest with you guys. This was our first, I wanted to try to get into our locker room, our stadium locker room the Saturday prior to the Charleston Southern game. We weren't able to get into it. So it wasn't until Friday night that we actually took the team through. And it's a great space that they built for us in there. But, I mean, just that procedure of getting dressed. Where are we getting dressed? Where's the training room? Where am I meeting with the team before the game? Where am I meeting with them at halftime? Where do the coaches gather after the game? Where's the media afterwards? I mean, all that stuff. I mean, I ended up somehow back out on the field after I'd met with the coaches before I met with the team, and I was lost a little bit. I mean, it's all new. So you're learning so much about the physical spaces, obviously with the kind of a new building. You're learning about how your team's going to respond to the emotions of the game, how guys are going to handle their roles, because it's so different than a scrimmage where you're not playing as many snaps. And so, you have to deal with lag time on the sideline and guys that are playing strictly special teams. So again, you learn a lot. On the whole, I was pleased with what I saw. I think the way our schedule sets up, we'll learn even more this weekend. But the one thing that impressed me, not the one thing, I felt like there were some really good things that showed up. I thought Jordan White played really well as a center. I thought he was very smart in there. He got us set up with our protections. Charleston Southern was bringing multiple forms of pressure. I felt like we were able to collect that and get run game started, which was great. And then defensively, there was just a structure and a consistency with how we played. I thought it was 6. It actually ended up being 7 3 and outs in that game. Sometimes you wonder how, just how you're going to play first or second down, set up third down wins. And in 2023, I think it was Alabama A&M that it was something like a 14 or 16 play drive to start the game, and it was like that was the first drive of the season. So to see the guys playing fast defensively, playing physical in the front, we were able to get them off schedule, get off the field. That was, I think, a huge boost to team performance. Was part of that fast start, but it was also a part of, holding the opponent at bay for 4 quarters and really eliminating hope for them. We'll learn a lot more on the road this weekend because we're going to play against a really good Virginia Tech team that's got explosive skill and they're well coached, and it's a tough environment, but that's also the fun part too. We got to go and give our best effort, and as we go, we'll continue to adjust and adapt based off what we learn about our team.
Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lee has been our guest on D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick. Clark, thank you so much for your time. Good luck in Blacksburg, and we'll catch up next week.
Thanks, guys. Good to be with you.
Clark Lee on the program. Vanderbilt at Virginia Tech this weekend, this Saturday, a 6:30 p.m. start at Lane Stadium in Blacksburg, Virginia. 615-737-1025. It was an eventful weekend in the SEC, to say the least. We'll try to recap it as swiftly as we can. And we'll do that next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
All right, let's tell you about Loan Pronto. As I've been saying, the rates are lower right now. So if you've been stuck with a high rate mortgage, don't waste any more time because these rates are not going to last forever. They're going to go back up at some point. So call Loan Pronto now for your free, no obligation quote. If in the last couple of years you've gotten stuck with a high rate mortgage, you can get that down right now because Loan Pronto delivers the lowest mortgage rates in 3 years with their rate reduction home loan program. 615-499-5780. That's money in your pocket. You can skip your next 2 house payments entirely if you do this refi through Loan Pronto. Lower payments, more money in your pocket, a fresh start with a better mortgage rate. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. That's loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Play fake. Aguilar looking deep, going deep. Man is there. Ball is caught. 30, 20, 10, 5, end zone. Touchdown! Tennessee!
Man, was it weird to hear Mike Keith call a touchdown for the Tennessee Volunteers. But that was Mike Keith's call. of Joey Aguilar's 73-yard touchdown pass to Braylon Staley in Tennessee's 45-26 win against Syracuse in the Volunteers opener in Atlanta over the weekend. Willie, I'll leave it up to you. Which SEC game should we start with? Tennessee and Syracuse, Alabama and Florida State, or Texas and Ohio State?
A lot of places we could go with that. Let me just segue out of the Vanderbilt discussion with Clark Lee, because I was reminded as I was watching the game of what Mitch Light told us. My question to him was, how much better do you think they are on paper than last year? And I didn't have the guts to ask Coach Lee that, because I'm not sure he would want to say what Mitch said. But Mitch said, I believe they are better at every position on paper, every position. And in watching that on Saturday, Charleston Southern is not good at all. They're terrible. But it was so easy for Vanderbilt. I do think that some of the things they set out to do last year look promising, and this will all be put to the test next week. But the outside speed in Trey Richardson, he looks like he could be just what that offense needs. And some of the new guys are even pushing some people that were really good for them last year. And that's a really good sign. The guys that got them to a bowl victory last year, they're all back and a year better, a year older, like Pavia and Stowers. Like, that was there. They could have gone to that all day. But I was looking for some of the other pieces. So I was encouraged about how sharp they were, other than, as you mentioned, a couple of the silly holding penalties. But other than that, that was nitpicking. They were about as flawless as it could be. So on that, I think the biggest story for sure it's 1 and 1A. It's Alabama and their struggles against Florida State. And it's, where does Texas go from here? So let me start with Arch Manning, because I thought Arch Manning, I didn't get to see the game live. I had to go back and watch it. And all of these people were going, oh, he was terrible and this and that. And I see the mistakes that he made for sure. But at the same time, I think, number one, Ohio State is, they're a bear. That's a very, very tough place to come in and try to win. The way Manning moves, the athleticism, I think he will recover from this game. So the overhype, all that stuff, I would put that on pause right now. I wouldn't go too far. The one thing I was curious about, though, and did you guys, because I didn't see it live, the commercials with Arch in there. Did you know that those were coming?
No,
I had no idea.
Mm-mm.
So are we a little bit worried about the Will Levis stuff?
No,
there?
I'm not. I'm not worried about that.
You think he can handle that part of it?
Yeah, I think that part of it.
I'm always a little, because Baker Mayfield, you get the commercials before you've done it. I think that's a little bit of extra pressure.
No,
on top of it.
I don't think that stuff means anything. The pressure is he's a Manning. That's pressure alone. That's more than anything. How much money they can give you, or how many commercials they can give you. What really matters, and the pressure comes from being a Manning. So, and you're at the University of Texas. So being a Manning at the University of Texas, it's like, man, that's the hype in itself. So you got to.
That's why I'm curious. Why then do the commercials on top of all that?
I mean, because you got obligations. Everybody
doesn't need money.
Yeah, take advantage of your NIL. And listen, he had his dad on there with him, so that was, it was nice to have that. It's a commercial you share, and I don't see that as a big problem unless he starts, because a lot of this stuff was done before the season, so he's not shooting commercials now. So I'm not too worried about that. Listen, in particular Manning, I think. And the only reason I'm saying this is because we've seen announcers eviscerate other quarterbacks that come out with so much hype, and they play one bad game. Hell, they went off on Shedeur Sanders for the last 2 years. No matter what he did, they went off on him, and it was like they were trying to find something, or any other quarterback out there that they just want to find something bad. What irritated me was, just say the kid wasn't having a good game. Just say that. Because he wasn't. He looked nervous. He looked like a deer in the headlights. It looked like as if he didn't know how to play football. And it wasn't Sark's fault. Everybody's trying to blame it on Sark now. It wasn't Sark's fault. It wasn't. Some people say, well, this is his first real test. No, he's played football before. He was in college games last year. Y'all remember that? When he was throwing for those long touchdowns and running? Y'all were, oh my goodness, man. And I can't wait to see him
To be
next
fair,
year.
against a much different caliber of competition.
I understand that, but see, that's where you need to temper the expectations when that is going on. But it blew up the expectation. Like, oh my goodness, we can't wait to eat, we can't wait to Manning get in, and all of a sudden we're going to be, the best team in the country. Well, I would have rather had the quarterback from, what was his name? Quarterback from last year from Texas.
Quinn Ewers.
I would have rather had Quinn Ewers last night. The other night than have Manning, Archie Manning. He was an Arch Manning. Arch Manning. I would rather have
grandfather is Archie.
Yeah, I would have rather had him than Arch Manning for this reason. He was seasoned. He was a veteran. He had been through those things before. Manning's never as much. He's played football, but he's never been in a situation like that before. I don't blame that on Sark. I don't blame that on anybody else. The kid just didn't play well. Can't people just say that instead of making all these excuses for the kid? He played like a rookie. He played like a guy that hadn't played many games. Will he get better? You hope he does. Hell, Texas hope he does. But to try to dismiss it, when I'm listening to people as they call in the game, still dismissing what is going, like, we all see it. Don't make excuses. He's not playing. Just say the kid's not playing well. He's going to have to play better and move on. But they were making excuses for Manning every time he dropped back and threw the ball. Sark didn't make him throw an interception. Sark didn't make him throw behind a guy that was wide open 2 or 3 times. That was the kid being nervous. Now, hopefully, the next game, he's not as nervous. But when a guy isn't playing well, I don't care if his name is Manning, Mason, Dornick, Vingan, say that. Instead of trying to make up I'm not talking about you, Willie, but I'm just saying, try to make up the excuses about this kid, because that's all they've been doing since the game ended.
Arch Manning, according to ESPN, had an off-target percentage of 37% in that game, the worst by a Texas quarterback in a game over the past decade.
But
so that puts some numbers onto what Derek is talking about.
I see that number, but I would also say that when I watched the game, there weren't a lot of easy ones there. And he did miss a few easy ones, which those were glaring. Also, if they pick up a couple of 4th and 1s, the results could have been a lot better. Like that in a low possession, low scoring game like that, not getting the 4th and 1 was huge. Like, if this is where the analytics tell you to go for it, but if they had just kicked the field goals and played the old school way and been down 14-13 when they had the ball the last time, that could have been a very different way, and we would have talked about how they kind of gutted their way to a win. But I thought Ohio State made it very tough on him. Like, he's going to have a lot of other games where it's not that difficult to find stuff, and I think he'll find his confidence.
Before we get to Trevor, I do want to point out one thing from Tennessee's 45-26 win against Syracuse. We played the cut from Mike Heath on Joey Aguilar's 73-yard touchdown pass to Braylon Staley in that game. Now, I wasn't watching this game live because I was at the Hot Wheels Monster Truck show at Bridgestone Arena with my son as a late birthday present, but I saw the highlight of the pass on my phone, and that was the explosive touchdown play that was missing from Tennessee's offense last season with Nico Iamaleava. And by the way, Nico, woof, against UCLA.
It wasn't good.
11 of 22, 136 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. UCLA loses 43-10. Man, whoever picked that game in silly underdog picks is a sucker.
Who picked that game? You.
Me. But here's the stat.
Did you stay up late to watch?
No. No.
How could you not watch your underdog thing? We have to talk about that.
Okay, well,
that's
what's done is done. But here's the stat that stood out to me. Joey Aguilar had 179 passing yards at halftime. He was 9 for 18 for 179 yards passing at halftime. Nico Iamaleava had 6 full games last season with Tennessee where he threw for under 179 yards. 6 full games. And Aguilar had it at halftime.
Listen, this Tennessee, because you got to really look into the numbers. This Tennessee offense, they're no matter who's behind, who's underneath center, because the way that the offense is designed, if you are a capable quarterback, they're going to put up points, they're going to put up yardage. But he's still not completing. He's not even completing 60% of his passes, Joey Aguilar. He's right at 57%. You play against a tougher team, you're going to get mollywopped. You are. You in this offense, you have to complete more than 57% of your passes. That's what made Hendon Hooker so good for this offense, because he was efficient and precise. Why were they so bad the last couple of years? Because the quarterbacks were not efficient and precise. And Aguilar, they scored a lot of points. You better start praising that defense. That defense is good, man. Even though they gave up 20-some points, that's a good defense. But if he continues to be below 60%, they're going to struggle. And I want Tennessee fans to know that. The offense is always going to, they're always going to give you the numbers, and they're going to score points. But when you start looking, when they start playing better teams, if he's not completing more passes, or a better percentage of his passes, they're going to lose.
But it is an advantage to be older, and that is the one thing that jumps out when you watch Aguilar. He looks older, more mature. He's played a lot. That helped. And you're right. He's going to face much, much tougher tests here.
2 weeks, Georgia.
But so far,
Yeah.
I think he built confidence. He didn't turn the ball over, right? He made some plays. He made some nice plays. So from a confidence standpoint, not only for himself, but his teammates' confidence in him, he passed the first test big time.
615-737-1025. We will bring in Trevor Maddich. We will continue the conversation about the eventful weekend in college football with Trevor Maddich coming up next. Also, be listening in the next segment, because at the end of that segment, I have a pair of tickets to give away. You can win a pair of tickets to see Nelly at the Ascend Amphitheater on Tuesday, September 16th, 2 weeks from today. So be listening after Trevor Maddich for your cue to call to win a pair of tickets to see Nelly at the
Air
Ascend
Force
Amphitheater.
Ones.
I actually think it's Force Ones.
Gross.
It's Force Ones.
He's stomping in his Force Ones. This is the widest I've ever sounded on the radio. But you can wear a pair of tickets to see Nelly at the Ascend Amphitheater on Tuesday, September 16th, after Trevor Maddich, who is coming up next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Ving, and 1025 The Game.
Derek Mason here, and if you've injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. That's where Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until their case or your case has been settled. They understand how much your bike gear is worth to you and will get it all repaired, or better yet, replaced. That's even better. Law Tigers is a resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's to support an event or if they see you broken down on the side of the road, with Law Tigers, you'll never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fusen, and you can find them located in Nashville at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025, The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Pleased to be joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com by Trevor Maddich, who is brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics when experience matters. So, Trevor, we're talking SEC football here. We started the show by playing a clip of an angry Alabama fan. He called into the Paul Feinbaum show. Among other things, he said about Kalen DeBoer, and I'm only slightly paraphrasing here, that if DeBoer were on life support, the fan would pull the plug to charge his phone. Things are not going well in Tuscaloosa. Past 5 games, DeBoer and the Crimson Tide are 5-5. And there are multiple losses to unranked opponents, including to Florida State over the weekend. What should the concern level be at Alabama for the way things have been going recently for that program?
I think it's a huge concern level, Adam. And it's not just that they've lost those games. It's that they lost those games with an apparent lack of discipline. Alabama is used to playing the cleanest of either side that's on the field. But under Kalen DeBoer, I believe that every single game that he's coached for Alabama last year and this, Alabama had more penalties than the opponent. This time, Alabama had 8 penalties. Florida State had 4, so it held up in this game. Alabama on defense would take poor angles to tackles. They'd be out of position. They'd be out of rush lanes. They would, on offense, drop passes and just miss blocks and just do all kinds of stuff that you wouldn't expect. And, of course, the conversation is that DeBoer has a different style of discipline. Nick Saban, everything comes from the top down. And he also had leaders in the locker room. So not a whole lot of problems actually reached his desk because the alphas in the locker room took care of it. All of a sudden, Saban's gone. DeBoer comes in with a process that expects guys to discipline themselves, to act like grown men. And I think a lot of those guys just don't know how to do it. And Alabama has lost games in part because of it. I mean, you look at this Florida State game, a big reason they lost was Florida State quarterback Tommy Castellanos running the ball. He was their leading rusher, and he ripped off some really big runs at critical moments for Florida State. And some of those were from the pocket, and the pass rushers got out of their lanes because they were so excited to rush the passer that they forgot to maintain lane discipline. A big gap opened up in the front of the pocket, and Castellanos would just take off running through it. Well, that's a discipline issue. And so I think right now the seat for DeBoer, even though I think he's one of the best coaches in the country overall, it is not translating at Alabama, and they are losing for reasons that are very un-Alabama-like.
We were just talking about Tennessee's win against Syracuse. What were your initial impressions of Joey Aguilar under center for the Volunteers? And was there anything you saw from him that you did not see from Nico Iamaleava in the same position last season?
Yeah, it was a feel that was different, first of all, because with Iamaleava last year, it didn't seem like he made you think as a person watching the game that at any time he could explode for a big play. It just seemed like they were kind of playing around his limitations. And in the first games of the season, non-conference games, boy, was he great. But when they got into SEC play, they didn't let him do very much. And I think part of it is because they were afraid he'd mess up. And you saw that in the Oklahoma game last year, where they only threw it like 19 times, but he fumbled the ball multiple times in the pocket during those 19 attempts. And so I think what you saw with Aguilar, being a guy with a lot more college football experience than Nico last year, is a guy that you felt like was in command. He was in control. He was running that offense at hyper tempo when they were called upon to do it. They don't do that every play, every series, but when it called upon, he was in control of it. And I'll tell you what, that long pass to Braylon Staley was a thing of beauty. That touchdown pass, 73 yards. The thing I liked about it was that Aguilar threw the ball way up high in the air and allowed it out in front and allowed Staley to kick it up to one more gear and run under it to adjust to it rather than throw it on a rope that has to be absolutely perfectly accurate in order for the receiver to have a chance to pull it down. And so he'll complete, I believe, Aguilar a lot more of those deep passes than Nico did if he continues to throw the ball the way he threw it with that kind of trajectory down the field. And remember that this offense needs two things from the quarterback in order to succeed. Well, the first two things are, number one, be able to operate efficiently at high tempo, and number two, connect on those downfield passes. And Aguilar, in his first game, seemed like he was able to check both of those boxes.
Now, Trevor, this weekend, I think probably what the biggest game was the Ohio State-Texas game. Obviously, the hype coming in for Arch Manning. Were you surprised at how he played, or is this what you thought it was going to be? Because when you're listening to even the announcers as they're calling a game, it's almost as if they're blaming everything else on everybody else instead of just saying, hey, the kid is playing like someone that's just playing his first big game against a top 5 opponent. He's playing bad. He will possibly play better as he moves forward, but he's just playing a bad game. Honestly, it looked like a kid that deer in the headlights look. It seemed like he was a little nervous and he was a tad bit late or too fast on a lot of his throws.
Yeah, D-Mays, I think that really encapsulates what you just said. His experience in this game against the Buckeyes, and you could see it in the very first game. I mean, I picked Texas to win this game. I thought that they had enough to win, and certainly they outgained Texas by about 130 yards. They were better in a whole lot of statistical categories than Ohio State was. Texas was better than Ohio State, but there were a couple of problems. One is that in situations, Ohio State was better. In other words, on fourth down, Texas had 4 opportunities. They only converted 1 of them. They were 1 of 5 on fourth down, including down at the goal line on a goal line stance that the Buckeyes defense came up big. This is in a game when they lost by 7 points. But then you go to what you said about Arch now, the quarterback for Texas. The very first play of the game was a scripted rollout to the right. He had a receiver mirroring his roll to the right with a crossing route going from left to right, about 15 yards or so downfield. And pressure was on the way, but it wasn't anywhere near close enough to him to affect the throw to a wide open receiver right in front of him. And Arch threw the ball in the dirt about 2 yards in front of his receiver. Now, this wasn't a timing throw to a spot, and maybe the receiver was in the wrong place. This wasn't that kind of a play. And so it was just, Arch was intensely inaccurate on that play. And that's very un-Arch-like. He's better than that, but mentally, he let it get the best of him. There was another play. I did a telestrator breakdown on SportsCenter about this. There was another play where Arch threw a bubble screen out to the right, and the ball was caught, but the ball was so low that the receiver went to the ground to catch the ball. So Arch actually had 2 stats on that play. He had a completion, and he had a tackle, because he tackled his own receiver by throwing the ball so low, the receiver was on the ground making the catch. I say that facetiously. He's not listed on the thing, but I mean, Arch can throw a bubble screen, but not on that play. And then the biggest play of the game, I think, that you would say from a negative standpoint for Arch was an interception that led to Ohio State's game-winning touchdown drive. Arch had a receiver on the right running a deep out route. And that receiver, Ryan Wingo, had his defender turned completely around when he kind of faked and stemmed to the inside. Then Wingo cut outside. He had a lot of separation, and if Arch had thrown the ball out in front of him toward the sideline, then it would have been an easy pitch and catch for a nice gain. But Arch, with no pressure, threw the ball inside where the DB that had gotten beat was. And the DB just stepped up and caught the ball, and the Buckeyes offense then took it down for what became the game-winning touchdown. That was another opportunity that was there to be taken by Arch, and he just missed it. Now, Ohio State's defense was phenomenal all game long. It is the opportunities that were there that were missed that I'm talking about, and those are the ones that Arch wishes he would have back. But to his credit, after everything went so badly, for 3.5 quarters, in the final few minutes, Arch finally woke up and started making some amazing throws. So I'm not worried about him going forward. I am wondering why in the world he was mentally in such a funk for the first 3.5 quarters of this game, and then was able to come out and play like the Arch Manning we expected late in the game, but it was too little too late.
Trevor Matich is with us from ESPN. We're breaking down a great opening weekend in college football. So, Trevor, every Vanderbilt follower was watching with a keen eye on the Virginia Tech South Carolina game. It's a little round robin between those three teams. Vanderbilt's next two games are on the road against those opponents. Let's start with Virginia Tech. It looks like it's not a big favorite, even though that's a great home field advantage traditionally over in Blacksburg. But what are your thoughts on Vanderbilt's matchup with Virginia Tech?
Well, I think this is a very winnable game for Vanderbilt. I mean, Vanderbilt is really improved this year. I mean, they weren't really tested in their opener, but I think with another year with Pavia, not just with his progressing as a quarterback, but with his attitude being infused into the team and the belief that they have in him, taking them to the next level in terms of their belief. And, you know, you guys know that believing you can get it done is a big part of it. Virginia Tech faced a great quarterback, and I mean great, for South Carolina in Lenora Sellers. But the rest of that Virginia Tech team, I think, has some vulnerabilities, especially at the line of scrimmage. I don't think South Carolina's offensive line is all that good. I don't think that South Carolina's defensive front is all that great, with the exception of one guy who's an amazing pass rusher. I think that Virginia Tech had a chance here. The problem is Virginia Tech kept on, having, I don't want to say the word I want to say, where you make your foot get obliterated. I don't want to use that word. They made self-inflicted mistakes. Okay. And, they had a couple of turnovers. Virginia Tech didn't play like I thought they could. Now, the question is Virginia Tech really at that place? Did we see Virginia Tech at their best? Because, they lost this game 24-11 to South Carolina. And truthfully, I thought Virginia Tech had a chance to not just be a lot closer, but possibly even beat South Carolina. What you have to worry about with Virginia Tech is their quarterback, Kyron Drones, is one of those guys that when he gets hot, he is amazing. And he just wasn't hot in this game. So, I think this will be a tough game for Vanderbilt, but this is very much a winnable game.
Quick one here for you as we get out, Trevor. There's been a great trend. Like Jaden Daniels, I honestly hadn't watched him play a whole lot until he got to LSU and then lit it up, right? There's a lot of guys like that. Of course, Cam Ward was like that. So here's Carson Beck, who, of course, has been in the spotlight, but he had the injury. Now he's got that extra year. He's got a real chance to up his stock. What did you think about his performance against Notre Dame?
Yeah, well, I thought he was fantastic against Notre Dame. Just the numbers are great. I mean, his QBR was 85 out of a possible 100. 100's perfect, 50 is average. He was 85, even though Miami lost their top 6 receivers from last year, and Notre Dame has one of the best secondaries in all of college football. So Beck showed that he belongs in the conversation among the top quarterbacks in the nation, among front runners in the Heisman, because he used this experience. I mean, it wasn't that he out-athleted Notre Dame. He knew where to put the ball, and then he put it there accurately. He knew what situations required which solutions, and he went right to those solutions. And it's that experience really that caused them to win the game, because Notre Dame had a freshman quarterback that didn't know that stuff. And so I think that Miami is a team that, especially with the way Clemson performed against LSU, I don't want to overreact, but those two teams may be a whole lot closer than people thought, than I thought in the preseason. And this Miami team may well be good enough to make the playoff and do some damage, especially because their defense is so vastly upgraded. But Carson Beck, even though he takes the place of the number 1 pick in the draft, Cam Ward, Carson Beck operated this offense more like a pro quarterback than Cam Ward did.
Trevor Matich has been our guest on D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick. He is brought to you every week by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trevor, great stuff as always. We'll catch up next week.
Thanks, guys.
Trevor Matich on the program. 615-737-1025. We will get back into our pressing Titans questions. Willie was kind enough to let me take a stab at the question today. So we will do that coming up next, but I did promise a giveaway. So be caller, pick a number, Derek.
5.
Be caller number 5 at 615-737-1025, and you can win a pair of tickets to see Nelly at the Ascend Amphitheater on Tuesday, September 16th, 2 weeks from tonight. Caller number 5, you will win a pair of tickets to see Nelly at the Ascend Amphitheater on Tuesday, September 16th. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. What did I say?
Hey, it's Derek Mason, and if you're thinking about your home curb appeal, don't overlook your garage. It's the biggest opening in your house. That is why I always recommend all Four Seasons garage door openers. Garage doors. Owner Dan Watkins. This is a locally run, family-owned business you can trust. They've got a huge selection of garage doors. So if you're ready for a new look, this is the place to go for quality. And if you're ready, and if you need to fix anything, whether it's your spring replacement or your opener replacement or your section replacement or any repairs, they'll get it done right. They can even quiet that noisy garage door or opener that's been driving you crazy. So installation, nobody does it better. They're big enough to serve, but small enough to care. That's why so many Middle Tennesseans trust them with their homes. Check them out online at allfourseasongarages.com. That's all four, the number 4 seasons, garages.com. When trust matters, call All Four Season Garage Doors.
D. Mace Finnegan and Donick 1025, The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan here with you. The Tennessee Titans open the season in just 5 days on the road at Denver against the Broncos. Broncos minus 7.5. As I said earlier in the program, the Titans are no longer the biggest underdog of the weekend. That distinction belongs to the Dallas Cowboys, who open on the road on Thursday against the Eagles. The Cowboys are 8.5-point underdogs on the road against the Eagles. But we are going to continue doing something we started last week. One of these days, we're going to have to double up because we missed a day yesterday, of course, because of Labor Day. But we have a list of 10 Titans questions that we feel are critical to determining how successful this team can be this season. So Willie came up with the first 5. He was kind enough to let me have a crack at it today. But Willie, quickly, let's recap the first 5 just so people can refresh their memories on the first half of the questions before we get to question number 6.
I want to say that I said something incorrect earlier in the show. It was 2 years ago that D. Mace was overly optimistic about the Titans. He had an 11-6 prediction, but it was not last year. I went back. No. I found the scrolls. I'm back. Everything's right in the universe now because I have my scrolls.
I'm glad the scrolls were identified.
Yes.
They were found and identified. I'm glad.
D-May said 9-8. I said 8-9. Adam said 7-10, just for the record last year. So all of us were overly optimistic.
But at
least D-May didn't say 11-6.
And it should be noted
that was 2 years ago.
That I was
you
the closest.
The brain out of Willie.
Sorry about that.
Let the record show I was the closest to being right, despite being way off.
But you know what? You still was wrong.
Yeah, we just went back through last year's notes. None of us really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, we were not Nostradamus here when it comes to predicting what the Titans are going to do.
Nope.
But I think
not even close.
I think that's why we do these questions. We talk about these things in the offseason and the preseason, and then how it turns out can have a lot of surprises. So far, here are the 5. Over or under 42.5 sacks allowed by the Titans and their offensive line, knowing that they have struggled mightily in this area. We all said over. 42.5 would be about league average for a season. We all think they will improve on the 54 they allowed last year and the 66 they allowed the year before. But we think it's a bridge too far to say under 42.5 with the rookie quarterback. Cam Ward, over or under 12.5 games played. All of us, not all of us. Adam said over, and he says he'll play all 17.
Sure did.
D-May says over. I go under simply because it's been a while since they've been able to keep a quarterback healthy. So that is what we're setting the bar for Cam Ward in his rookie year in terms of staying upright and completing his rookie season. That would be a victory if he can just stay out there and be productive enough and injury-free. That would be a checkbox. Oh, did I say checkbox? I didn't say check all the boxes.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
wait,
you can say that. You just said it. Damn it, Willie. You had it right the
first time. Question 3. Calvin Ridley, over or under 1,100 yards receiving in his second year as a Titan. He had just over 1,000 last year. All 3 of us agree on this one, that he will go over in that, largely because he's going to be targeted more than any of the Titans and probably by a wide margin. He'll be the featured part of the offense, but let's see how it plays off. Question 4. More combined receiving yards. A, the youngsters, DK, Io Manor, Helm, and we even throw in Bryce Oliver to make it a little more intriguing. This is what I think the Titans would love to see, is those youngsters jump up. And at the end of the year, that collection will say, wow, we've got something with the young quarterback. He's got chemistry with these young targets. Will it play out? We'll see. The other choices B, the veteran placeholders, Tyler Lockett, Van Jefferson, and Chiga Conquell. So we're not including Ridley in this discussion. Adam and D. Mace are taking the veterans. I am taking the youngsters. That's a key question, I think, in which direction this season goes in the big picture. And then finally, the availability. We got to get D. Mace's answer on this.
Yes, we do.
Oh.
L'Jarius Sneed and Tajay Spears. We know that those two, above all of the Titans, have the reputation of not being able to stay healthy. Surprisingly, L'Jarius Sneed, or LJ, as Mike Borgonzi always likes to call him, he's been cleared. He's off the PUP. He's practicing, and they think he's probably going to suit up for game 1.
Mhm.
And then Tajay Spears, we know, is going to miss at least the first 4 games because he's on the injured reserve. So we set the over-under for those two combined at 17.5 games. So will they combine to at least play half of the games is what it comes down to.
I can't. I mean, because he's on IR right now.
Right. So max is 13. So,
but still, you don't know when he.
half,
you don't know when he does come back. Is he going to be ready to play?
This is the
they
question.
They gotta, tune him up first to
That's
get him.
why
in,
I asked the questions. These are not supposed to be easy questions, D-Mace.
17 games, 17 and a half over or under. Woo. That's
Adam said over. I said under.
Why did you put it at 17?
This was
combined. I'm just saying combined. Yeah.
Well, because there were a lot of people that if we had asked this question before training camp, I think everybody would say under because so many people were saying, I'm not even sure Snead's going to play again.
Yeah. Okay.
There were a lot of loudmouths that did say with a lot of skepticism, this guy may never play again.
I would say over, but not by much.
Well, that's because
that caveat.
Spears
I would say
is
over.
another one that the high ankle sprain can linger. And then Snead, we know it's just, how's it going to go? It's a complete X factor.
And as I said,
D-Mace says over.
And as I said, Derek, I picked the over. I said, I'm not sure how effective they're going to be when they play, but I expect them to play enough to hit the over.
But all of this, that means you expect LJ, L'Jarius Sneed, to play all games, really. That's what you're banking on is L'Jarius to play at least 15 games.
Here's what I said, and Willie, correct me if I misremember. I set the expectation for Tajay Spears games at 10. I said he's going to end up playing 10 of the games. He's going to miss the first 4. He's going to miss 3 others after he's eligible
with
to
his
come
next
back.
injury.
Right. Sprinkle them in there. So I said 10, which means I expect Snead to play at least 8.
So you're saying
half the season.
Even with already we know he has a high ankle sprain, and we know how high ankle sprains are. You're still banking on him playing more games than L'Jarius Snead.
It basically comes down to this: if one of them can stay out there, then
yes,
he can carry the both of them. If they both play half the season, that's where it's right borderline.
Yes,
you need one of them to stay relatively healthy, knowing that Spears can play no more than 13.
Right.
I'm banking on the guy that's not on that is not on IR right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair
That's
enough.
what I'm doing.
So now it's time for question 6, and Willie was kind enough to let me have a crack at it. So there is a question that a lot of you have. We have it as well. Who in the hell is going to sack the quarterback for the Tennessee Titans? The Tennessee Titans had 32 sacks last season. Keep in mind, the Denver Broncos, Tennessee's week 1 opponent, had double that, 63. So close to double, virtually double. The Tennessee Titans had 32 sacks last season, which was tied for 29th in the NFL. The Tennessee Titans had 170 quarterback pressures last season, which was tied for 30th in the NFL. The team's leading sacker, Harold Landry, who had 9 of 32 out the door. By my rough math, the Tennessee Titans lost 14 sacks from last season between Harold Landry, Kenneth Murray, Jerome Baker, and Jack Gibbons. So nearly half, 14 of 32 sacks out the door. The Tennessee Titans brought in Draymond Jones, who I believe had 4 sacks last season, if I recall correctly. Arden Key is the team's leading returning sacker at 6.5 sacks. Jeffrey Simmons had 5. So here's my question for all of you and Willie and Derek at 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHunted.com. I am skeptical that the Titans are going to get back to 32 sacks, considering what they lost and the fact that the Titans did not add any premier or even proven, I would say, pass rushers. So I am setting the over-under for sacks for the Titans at 32.5. They had 32 last season. I'm setting it at 32.5, which is basically, do you trust the Titans to get back to at least 32, or do you think they lost too many sacks and they may not even get back to 32. So I am setting the over-under for Titan sacks at 32.5. 615-737-1025. Derek, why don't you go first?
32.5. Over the last 5 years, they've averaged 36 sacks. I know they've lost Harold Landry. I know they lost a little bit more production on that outside, and I know they're ushering in guys that are not heavy sack guys. But what I'm banking on is this. I'm banking on those two big fellas to occupy space. I'm banking on Jeffrey Simmons to be the Jeffrey Simmons of 2-3 years ago. Was it 3 years ago? Why? Because it's a contract year. And I think he's as healthy as he has been, in the last 2 years at the beginning of the season. So you're dealing with a healthy Jeffrey Simmons. With that being said, I think they know this defense a little bit better. Denard Wilson knows what he has, and he knows now what positions he can put these players in, especially the ones that were on this defense last year. So I just think by that, this team will have more than, 32 sacks?
I said 32.5.
Yeah, their average has been 36 over the last 5 years. I'm going the over. Do I have to give a number? I just say over under.
You can do either.
I would say they'll be right on the mark. 36 sacks.
So you're taking the over.
Yeah, I'm taking the over.
Willie, I set the over under at 32.5 because I'm skeptical the Titans can even get back to 32 sacks. Your thoughts?
I've tried to think about this in a couple different ways. The emphasis that they're going for is clearly not necessarily to get the sacks. The trend in football right now is not as much to scheme your way with the edge rushers, although it certainly helps if you have those, right? But it's the push, collapse the pocket, get the guy off of his spot. And then the next level is if you can get them into passing downs to try to match up your best pass rusher in different spots. Like Myles Garrett, he won't always rush from the same spot. He'll find the weakest matchup, which sometimes was a guy named Dillard. So he didn't even have to move in that game. Remember the nightmare sack on the last play of the first half? Like, dude, can we block one? Just get the guy one time and kick the field goal. Nope. But that's so. I don't know that the objective is always to get the sacks. They're going to have to do it by committee. It's less than 2 per game. 32.5 is less than 2 per game.
It's true. It's like
the bar is low.
You're trying to convince yourself to go over. You're trying.
You want to take the under.
No, he wanted to take the over. Willie wants to take the over so bad. He's trying to talk himself into taking the over. That's only 2 a game. It's only 2 a game.
I'm taking the over. I'm taking the over.
He's taking the
there
over.
You go.
32
I'm with you. It's not by much, but only because that bar is very low. That I feel like they'll find a way. They may not get a single one this weekend too, because the one thing that the Broncos do is they get rid of the ball. They don't take sacks. But the offensive lines in the AFC South are all suspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's 6 of your games. Like if you can get one good game where you get 5 or 6.
Willie's trying to talk himself into this. Willie, you went over. I went with over.
It's in
done.
pen. It's in pen.
It's in the scrolls.
It's in the scrolls. It's down as a scroll.
You are writing it in pen, but you really wish you were writing it in pencil, is the vibe I get.
Probably so.
Okay, 615-737.
Wait, what's yours, Adam? You said under?
You know what the beauty is? The beauty of sitting in this chair is I can send this to break and think about it. So that's what I'm going to do.
What?
615.
You created this negativity. Like they're not going to get to, and you're really considering over?
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Our 6th of 10 critical Titans questions. How many sacks do the Titans record in 2025? I have set the over-under at 32.5. The Titans had 32 sacks last season. They lost nearly half of those in the offseason. They're relying on Arden Key and Draymond Jones and Femi Oladejo to make up for that. How do you feel? Over under on sacks, 32.5. Basically, can they get back to where they were last season? 737-1025. Willie Dunnick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingett, 1025 The Game.
Hey, if you have gotten trapped in a high rate mortgage over the last couple of years, alert. Right now, Loan Pronto, they're delivering the lowest mortgage rates in 3 years. So if you've been sitting there going, how do I get out of this? Right now, you need to call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. Because here's how it works. You can lock in a fixed rate as low as 4.99% APR and close in as little as 2 weeks. No appraisal needed in most cases. And you can skip your next 2 house payments entirely. So if that sounds good to you for this fall plan, but the rates aren't going to last very long. So call right now. Loan Pronto. Once again, that number, 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. More money in your pocket and a fresh start. Loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025 The Game. Willie Dunick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Question number 6 of our critical, I should say, Titans questions. How many sacks do the Titans record defensively? And I say that because there's a text or on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. We'll get to it in just a second. How many sacks do the Titans record this season? Over, under 32.5. The Titans had 32 sacks last season. Nearly half of them are out the door, led by Harold Landry with 9. So basically what I'm asking is, can the Titans defense get back to the number it had last season, which was among the worst in the NFL? Willie and Derek have both taken the over, although Willie,
I really considered going under, but I believe the improvement, they will improve in year 2 on the margins just to get them over the top.
And I considered that. Of course, I'm taking the under. I don't think it's going to be by a lot. I don't think it's going to be like 20 or 25. I think it'll be around 30. And I'm hopeful that Jeffrey Simmons and Devondre Sweat will have more sacks than they did last season. But I just color me skeptical. So I will take the under. What about you? 615-737-1025. Here is the aforementioned texter. Tommy on our text line says, I say under. Cam gets rid of the ball. Levis was responsible for most sacks last year. I replied, this is for sacks by the Titans. The Titans defense. He says, oh, hell no, under 20.
Oh, wow.
We've already had the conversation about Ward and Levis. That was question 1.
Yes.
So he's a little late to the party, but
Yes.
I'm glad he joined us.
Chris
So he
says,
said, oh, hell no.
He said, oh, hell no, under 20. And I quote.
Wow.
Chris on our text line says, if we can get to 6 or 7 wins, then I think we get somewhat better in all phases of the game. I hope that would mean over 32.5 sacks as well. Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, where our good friend Mark from Nashville has been waiting patiently. Thank you for calling, Mark. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing today, Adam, Willie, D-May?
We're doing well, Mark.
Adam, yeah, you're kind of forgetting something, man.
What's that?
Number 1, crown me. We can't leave that out, Adam. We can't.
Self-proclaimed number 1 caller.
Yeah, indeed, by far. Yeah. Hey, look, a couple of things. I'm gonna go with the under, Adam. I think 28, whatnot. I mean, I got to see more consistency out of Arden Key. Jimmy Oladeja, he's kind of raw. He's still trying to learn the game and whatnot. I don't know if you can expect much from him from that. You're right. They should have, if you're going to get rid of Harold Landry, you should have brought a couple of other guys in there and tried to fill that position of defensive end. I think that's going to cost them. Unless Denard Wilson can sit there, like Willie said, and move guys around and try to put them in a position to get more sacks or whatnot. I don't see that happening. As far as wins, I got them winning 4 games this year. And before I get through, Adam, Willie, your Mets, they're doing good. You can't lose to the Marlins, man. You can't do that, Willie. You can't come back and beat a team and then lose to the Marlins. And
I will say, though, you have been getting on Juan Soto, and Juan Soto has gone on a tear. He finally hit a home run with more than one guy on base. So you can't go to that one anymore, Mark. He hit a grand salami against D. Mace's Tigers yesterday.
And you know why, Willie? Because he got that text message that I sent him.
He did. Thank you for doing that, Mark. Keep sending them.
Yeah, and look here. I don't know if I won the Nelly tickets. I don't need the Air Force Ones. I got some lime green shacks I can wear anyway to the concert. I don't need those Air Force Ones. And Chase McCade, I heard what you said last week. Get the contracts ready. Me and my manager, Mo Faulkner, we'll be there to sign it. Put me on 3 to 7 a.m. every morning. Watch ratings go up. Like I said last week.
It was 3 to 6. You're not going to take over an hour of Robbie and Rex.
Yes. 3 to 6.
3 to 6.
Well, somebody, I understand that 3 to 6. I'll take the job. Here I am. Ratings will go up. I'm telling you, like I said last week, ching, ching, Cromwell. I'm going to put cash in that bank for y'all stockholders. But hey, man, y'all have a good day. Adam, Willie, D-Mace, I know y'all love Mark calling y'all, man. I make y'all day.
Yes, you do.
I know
Yes.
That's right. Mark from Nashville signing out. See you later.
Oh, Mark. But Mark is
man.
also taking the
He's
under.
taking the under.
As
Yes.
is Skyler, who says a word we can't say. We don't even know how much Tavondre Sweat is going to play to start the season. I think he's expected
I
to
am
be
very
available
curious about
on Sunday.
how. I think he'll be out there. The question we have is,
How
high
much?
altitude.
Yeah. How much?
He's missed a lot of practice. How quickly can he
You mean
ramp up?
the altitude? You have to say
the
it like
the boogeyman.
like it's a ghost.
Well, it's the combination of that plus missing all of those practices.
Boo.
I'm very concerned.
Who
about
are
that.
you? Altitude. Boo.
Scott from Franklin says, what if you had 100 total sacks and tackles for loss combined? Then does it really matter how many you had, one or the other?
100?
What if you had 100 total sacks and tackles for loss combined? Then does it really matter how many you had, one or the other?
Well, the sacks is the tackle for loss, right?
It is.
Yeah.
I guess tackles for loss
with a running
help.
back.
Yeah, because it's running back.
Right. I think the key is how many times can you get them into obvious passing situations? I think that's probably one of the reasons why the number was so low last year. They weren't great in creating those obvious passing situations. They were behind a lot, so the other team didn't have to throw that much. So if you can stay in games, that would be better. So I think that's one reason why they might do better. And then here's the other part. The Titans they gave them the short field, right? They weren't on the field that much. They weren't on there for that many plays because there was a lot of short fields. So there were some other factors that I think might be a little bit better this year. If the Titans offense isn't so bad, if they improve a little bit, I think that allows the defense maybe to get more sacks, and then turnovers is a big part of it too, right?
Yeah. When you're talking sacks versus tackles for loss, because I mean sacks ultimately they are a component of being tackled for a loss, but I think I know it's different. One, it's just something about the energy when you sack a quarterback, as opposed to getting the running back down behind the line of scrimmage. And sacks usually are 5-yard, situations where it goes from 1st and 10 to 1st and 5 or 1st and 7. When you get a tackle for a loss, typically it's probably about 1 yard or 2. You're tackling a man line of scrimmage, unless he's running outside run and he tried to stretch it and get a couple more yards or try to get around a defender. That's when it becomes, are you trying to reverse field? That's when it becomes the huge tackle for losses. But I mean, there is a difference in a sense, because I understand what the texture is saying. Does it matter really if you had 100 sacks or 100 tackles for losses? Yeah, I guess it doesn't. But in the flow of the game, how it energizes, how it energizes the game, sacks are a little bit better, I would tend, than say a tackle for loss. But that's just how I look at it. But I know coaches, defensive coaches, they listen, just get the guy on the ground behind the line of scrimmage and make it 2nd and 11 or 12 as opposed to 2nd and 7 or 6.
Ryan in Florida on our text line says, over, I think 40. Okay, Ryan.
Ooh.
Chris is on our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com. Chris, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. I'm going to have to go with the under, man, because, I don't think they really improved the defensive line. Now, they might get more from blitzing guys, but, you remember last year there was a play against the Commanders where Daniels ran around for 11 seconds before he tossed it into the end zone for a touchdown. Our guys could not get off of their blocks. It was ridiculous.
How about the game-tying play by the Patriots on the last play of regulation?
He was running around for like 11 seconds, wasn't he? He was back there for a while.
It was not good last year at all.
You know who's going to be in, as I'm thinking about this more and more, because you're figuring out how is Denard Wilson trying to set up his defense. He went out and got bigger guys, beefier guys, stronger guys across the board, which tells me, and this player may end up being sort of like that magic key in a sense, not necessarily because I think he's just the greatest player in the world. He's a good player, I believe, but it's going to be Cedric Gray. Because of Cedric Gray's speed and him being able to, go to sideline, and If he becomes a good blitzer in this defense, he's going to be the guy because of those big fellas up front. They're able to occupy two guys with both of those guys. They're able to occupy 2 to 3 guys. And then you have the beefier guys on the outside. I wonder how much they're going to allow Cedric Gray to blitz, because he does bring in that element of speed to the linebacker position that they need. So how effective is he going to be in blitz situations? Because if you look at Baltimore's defense, they blitzed their middle linebackers. Why? Because they had speed to get in those gaps. So to me, he's going to be the critical guy. Not to say he's going to have 15 sacks, but if he learns to be a good blitzer, he can have a Pro Bowl type season in this type of defense, the way they are building it.
Quickly, because we haven't mentioned this, it has been reported by many outlets that the Titans plan to sign linebacker Kazir White. I don't believe that's been made official. If it has, I apologize. White started all 17 games last season for the Arizona Cardinals. According to our friend Teron Davenport, White will start the season on the Titans practice squad. He played his first 4 seasons with the Chargers, set career highs last season with 2.5 sacks, 8 quarterback hits, 9 tackles for loss, 1 interception, 3 passes defended, and 1 fumble recovery. He has familiarity with Denard Wilson. White was in Philadelphia, according to Teron Davenport, when Wilson was the passing game coordinator / defensive backs coach. So another link there. But
and this I think brings up one element of, can the defense be better? But today we're talking about sacks, right? And that would be one way the defense could be better. Roster spots, let's just say 40 through 53. A lot of these guys they've picked up have been on defense. If you notice, there's certain guys that they have since the start of training camp. They got the guy from the Vikings, right? They got this guy. They signed Shy Tuttle, right? There was a lot of guys. They took a couple of corners from Baltimore. How much better does that make the last few spots on your roster? We know that they lack high-end talent at the top of the roster. That's going to be a problem for the next couple of years, probably. But when you're last and you have the first crack at the waiver wire, the way they're doing it, that's where it doesn't show up right away. But can Denard Wilson look at the little pieces he's got and say, okay, I got a little more to work with here than I had last year? That's a key question.
No, it is, because it's not about, and when I say this, I don't mean necessarily it's in this situation, it's really not about the talent per se. It's about the individual having familiarity with the defense that I'm playing. And they may not be A1 starters or first line guys, but they're good enough to play within the defense that I have, which it's all about, knowing where you're supposed to be, communicating and all these other things. Well, if that's the case, I want people that have proven that they can play within the scope of my defense. And if we communicate, they're used to the communication that is called for in this defense, because this is a hectic type of defense. But if you're communicating, it looks hectic to everybody else, but it's good with us. They were not communicating enough last year. Why? Because the defense was new to everybody just about. Now you have guys that are in the second year in this defense, and he's bringing over guys that have familiarity with the defense. So, yeah, you may not be a starter per se, but I can trust that if I call a play, you will be in position to make a play.
615-737-1025. We will continue to take your answers to my question. Question number 6 of our critical Titans questions as the season approaches, the regular season opener, I should say. Over/under on sacks made by the Titans defense, not sacks allowed. 32.5. Over or under? 615-737-1025. We will take your thoughts on that. And we are not going to get out of here until I do a little tap dancing on Bill Belichick here and what happened yesterday. We're going to do that coming up next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5 The Game.
Derek Mason here, and if you've injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was a month ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike is worth to you. That's why they will help you get it all repaired, or better yet, replaced. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's to support you at an event, or if they see you broken down on the side of the road, with Law Tigers, you never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fusen, and you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
I actually think it was the right call.
Do you?
Football move, and he fell on the fumble.
What is a football move?
Ask Clemson. Into the open field goes
That's a football
battle.
move.
There's a football
That's
move
a
right
football
into the
move.
end zone. A 28-yard run, and the heels are getting the boot put right to their backside.
Sure did. Sure did. Now I've never
They
seen
got smoked.
I've never seen a horned frog. Purple is not my color.
I
But
love purple.
I was the biggest TCU fan in Nashville, Tennessee last night, watching TCU just kick the crap out of Carolina. What was the score? 48-14?
It wasn't even that
boring.
close.
Not only were those 48 points the most that North Carolina has ever allowed in a season opener, those 48 points are also the most points Bill Belichick has ever allowed as a head coach, period. Period. And I loved every second of it, except for the opening drive. That got me a little worried.
But
Like,
didn't that make it nicer, though? Because it looked like everyone was like, oh, here they come, right down the field. This is
Coach
unbelievable.
He knows what he's doing.
They
Michael
were showing
Jordan is
everybody
there.
in their suites.
Yeah,
Everybody
Michael Jordan
high-fiving.
was there.
They were going crazy.
Lawrence Taylor was there.
They went like a hot knife through butter on that
Randy
first
Moss
drive.
was there. Everybody was there.
Mia Hamm was there. I think Eric Church was there. All of the Carolina dignitaries were there, and they all watched Bill Belichick get his ass kicked, and I loved it. And I just hope that now we can go back to the way things were, where nobody gives a crap about North Carolina football. Okay? I'm not going to get into the whole Brady Belichick thing. That's a whole separate conversation. But we've been hearing about Chapel Bill for the past 7 or 8 months, and I'm so glad that on national television, all alone, no other games against it, Carolina, it doesn't matter what sport it is, basketball, especially basketball, football, tiddlywinks, I don't care. If Carolina gets its ass kicked, I love it. So I was loving it last night. Let's go to Dylan and Antioch on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Dylan, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey guys, how you doing? Just real quick, I wanted to say, what makes the Titans defense intriguing under Denard Wilson, it's really his layered pass rush. So it's not just Simmons and Sweat collapsing the pocket. You got the corners, the safeties, everybody being schemed up as a blitzer to, make the quarterback adjust. So I really think the new waiver wire additions, especially Shy Tuttle, just keeping everybody fresh, Womack, Armour Davis, that's going to really be the difference in pushing these guys with over 32 sacks this season. I'm thinking probably close in the early 40s. I'm saying 42, 43 sacks this year. Looking forward to it, guys. Tighten up.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dylan.
See, I think Dylan, and this is what I was talking about, Willie and Adam, when talk about the free agents that they brought in that Denard Wilson has familiarity with. It's because of the way he chooses to blitz. And, Dylan just said the layered blitz. Well, if you're going to do that, you got to have people communicating. The back end got to communicate with the guys up front or the backers. And if you don't have that, you can't do some of the things that you want to do. Now you've brought people in that are used to hearing that communication and know how to go out in the game and make that happen. So they may not be extraordinarily better physically, but because they're able to communicate within the defense, they know it, they understand it. It may end up, being better for them, because then if we're communicating, I can get those sacks that we were not getting last year because everybody knows what they're doing.
Let's go back to last night. I'm just curious for your guys' opinions on Bill Belichick, right? And I know that Carolina had a ton of turnover on the roster.
70 new players.
Right. Similar to what happened with Deion Sanders when he arrived in Colorado. And
or you could even say Vanderbilt last year. It can
Right.
go. It's a complete wild card, right?
But I right before the game started, I believe it was Desmond Howard, Pat McAfee, Nick Saban, and Teddy Bruschi. And Bruschi, Saban, and McAfee were just slobbering all over Bill Belichick. He's the greatest coach ever. He's my friend. He's going to win. He looks so comfortable on the sideline in his nasty sweatshirt, all of that stuff, right? And then Desmond Howard, it is Desmond Howard, right?
Yes.
Okay. Desmond Howard was like, TCU's a pretty good team. And Sonny Dykes and his team, they've been through this. Like, this isn't new to them. Like, they're an experienced team. I'm picking TCU. And boy, was he right. But I'm just curious about your opinion of Bill Belichick in the college game. It's still so strange to me. And we're not even going to get into the girlfriend thing. I'm not even talking about that. By the way, what time do you think she left the game last night? Do you think she stayed for the whole thing?
Well, all I know is some of the memes that were popping around.
Killing it.
It was entertaining.
Yes.
I don't know why, but it was one of those games. I guess I know why. It's just human nature, right?
Yes.
It's Michael Jackson's song.
Great Michael Jackson song.
But it was like you had to keep watching just to see how crazy or bad it was going to get. And like some of the comically bad, like the Telegraph's pick six and the scoop and score where the fumble just bounced right to the guy. 3 or 4, Kirk Herbst said, "Hey, this is a big drive. They got to get us up." He's gone. 75-yard drive.
Kind of like that clip we played.
And that was a separate one that we just played. Like, hey, what's a football move? Oh, here's a football move. A guy getting untouched. There's nobody within 5 yards. It was that bad. It was like a nightmare. But all that being said, I do think that they'll get better, right? Let's not judge them by the first game.
Here were two of my favorite parts of the broadcast. I believe at one point, Kirk Herbstreit put a headset on his dog. That's how bad the game was getting. And then at one point, they put a graphic on the screen telling you what time Carolina's quarterback had his most recent completion. 8:12 Eastern. And I believe it was like 2 hours later.
And they were emptying the barrels on all of the blowout material, which they clearly were running out of in the first half. It just It was so tough. That's a tough broadcast to do right there.
But do you think it's going to work? Do you think it's going to work for Bill Belichick at North Carolina? Because it feels, Derek, like we know this. Bill Belichick did not get hired in the NFL. He came close to, I believe, the Atlanta Falcons. But if I recall the reports correctly, I don't think the Falcons were comfortable handing him as much control as he wanted, which he did in New England for a long time. But like, I'm not convinced Bill Belichick is going to coach in the NFL again. Frankly, he doesn't need to coach anymore. Just go off and be with your child bride and enjoy life on the beach and doing yoga and all that weird stuff you were doing on Instagram with your girlfriend. But I feel like for him, this has to work. Like if it doesn't work, he's going to have an identity crisis.
Well, it has to work from the standpoint. If this doesn't work, he's never getting back into the NFL. This, I'm sure, in his mind, because the way they sort of orchestrated this whole thing, and his son, being, I believe he's the predecessor if he does leave after 1 year, something like that. This was all set up for him to leave after 1 year. He felt in his mind he could do enough in North Carolina to show people he still can get it done. And somebody would be desperate enough, or somebody would think, okay, we're getting old Bill Belichick and we'll be all right. We got us a quarterback. We'll be all right. I think Bill will eventually this year. I think they'll be a better team than what they showed yesterday. I do believe that. But he's going to find it hard, because if he wants this job for more than a year, he's going to find it. I don't know how well he's going to be able to adapt to NIL and all of this other stuff, because I understand you were getting paid in the pros. So he's used to sort of the payments and guys getting salaries. I get that, but it's different in college. It's still different in college, because in the pros, you ain't got to deal with parents. You don't. College, you got to deal with parents. And that could be a whole thing in itself. I think he'll find his footing. I don't think they will be, some juggernaut. I think they'll end up being an average team this year, and they'll be an average team probably next year.
Will he have 70 new players again next year?
The Tar Heels only have one ranked opponent on their schedule. They play host to Clemson on October 4th. That's the only ranked opponent they play all season.
And that's why I said they're going to end up being an average team. People are not going to talk a lot about him because he's not winning or not, but it ain't going to be enough. He's not going to do enough losing for them to talk about him a lot either.
But they're on national television like every week. Jonathan Hutton mentioned that with us last week. So even if they're bad,
they'll flex him out. They'll put him on a time where ain't nobody paying attention.
Yeah, but I
with
think
other high profile.
But for the
games.
reasons we just said, the intrigue, even if they're getting thumped, people are going to be interested, because some people don't want him to do well. They want to see him flop. And Adam's pointing, it's like, I'm
going to hate watch every game.
It would be best for Belichick if whatever games they got scheduled, that there's at least two marquee games at that same time. So if he's doing bad, nobody really paying attention to it.
Maybe not be standalone Monday night windows anymore.
I'm curious about two things. Number one, does he find that the college athlete just can't comprehend football and what he's trying to teach at the level that they need to for him to do what he's done well over the course of his career, or his son for that matter? Do they just find the college, oh, wow, this worked here in the pros, but I had guys who understood football on a deeper level? I wonder about that. And then the other part is the talent evaluation, right? He was given everything. He was given all the resources. Go buy who you need to buy. Hey, we got 70 new guys. But who was the guy who one of the experts who he's a good writer, Landers, who's the guy? But he made the comment that only two of the players that he has right now are projected to get drafted. Now, that could be there's a lot of people not eligible to get drafted yet. But I think about what Vanderbilt did with their approach to getting a new roster, which is what they did in football and basketball last year. They turned over everything. Vanderbilt's football team had like 50-something new players. Not 70, but a lot. But they didn't get a lot of big money guys. They got a lot of guys that were better than people realized and were good fits. And I wonder, as a talent evaluator, did Bill Belichick maybe go for too many big fish or throw too much money at guys who were maybe not the best plays? Because it's a fine art, as we're finding out. It can go really, really good or really, really bad when you come in with a brand new team. We've seen some brand new teams do really well. We've also seen some brand new teams not mesh very well, and that was certainly the case in the first game.
Andrew from Dover says that score started getting as wide as the age gap. That's not the first time I've heard that joke, but it's still pretty funny to me.
He's going to figure out, this season and potentially next season, that the talent level, and I'm sure he's already figured it out as far as, how is he going to be able to go out and get those 5-star guys? Because when you think of North Carolina, you don't think football. You don't.
Right.
So you got to do.
He's probably not going to beat other schools to get the 5-star.
Just like what Deion Sanders did out in Colorado. When you thought about Colorado, you just thought about bad teams.
But
you
North
was
Carolina,
are they still playing? That's what you thought.
Was supposed to be the 33rd NFL team. Remember that?
Well, that's just because they had a bunch of pro individuals on
Michael
the coaching
Lombardi,
staff.
I believe, is the one who coined that phrase.
And all this stuff, maybe they shouldn't be the 33rd team. Just be a college team, okay? And maybe you'll do better, all right? But he's got to figure out a way, like Deion did. How do you infuse so much energy and excitement to get those guys to want to come visit your campus?
Have you met Bill Belichick?
And he's not going to do
excitement?
it. And he's not going to be able to do it. That's what I'm saying.
Has anyone ever used those terms
No.
to describe Bill Belichick in any walk of life?
No.
Hey,
And that's why it's going to be a struggle for North Carolina.
I am here for the train wreck. I am here for the train wreck. I'm just telling you, I loved that last night. But that'll do it for us today. We will be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock. We will continue our breakdown of the Titans Week 1 matchup against the Broncos. Also, Week 2 of Silly Underdog Picks at 5:20. We all went over. So we're all looking for our first wins. But that's tomorrow. We'll see you at 3 o'clock.
Be love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful Tuesday. I love you. We love you. Peace.